This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Moses.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that BusinessDay television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Moses.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that BusinessDay television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
Information is everywhere, but insights, that is rare. BusinessDay Premium gives you analysis, data, and context that keep you ahead. BusinessDay Premium. Read deeper, decide smarter.
They say money never sleeps. Wake up to clarity, insights, and the stories driving business in Nigeria and beyond.
From the heartbeat of small and medium enterprises to the pulse of national economic policy, this is where business meets perspective. With expert guests, real-time analysis, and stories that matter to you. We go beyond headlines to bring you the full picture.
Join us every morning as we break down the numbers, decode the policies, and spotlight the people shaping our economy. This is Business Money.
We are not just showing off businesses, but telling the stories behind them. The hustle, the art, the orders, and the wins.
Startup Spotlight, showing every Monday on BusinessDay television.
Welcome to the Triumph Against Odd podcast.
Most people go through their lives without knowing what their superpower is, right? But if you're lucky enough and determined enough to find your superpower before you get to a certain stage of your life, you will be incredibly successful.
Look, the first thing is you just decide not to look at the challenges, because if you do, it's going to end you.
The closest thing I think is that I had a deeply military background, which is a bit of a never say die background.
I saw an opportunity in non-interest banking, and I felt that the demand was there. There was pent-up demand for it. People were yearning for it. And I felt that if we did it properly, if we brought in professionalism into it, and if we brought in our experiences, our various experiences from various backgrounds into it, that it could succeed.
Very few people do that because very few people explore their superpowers. They just explore bread and butter issues. I need to eat, and
Yes, there will be challenges. This is a very difficult business environment. The government keeps working on how to make business easier.
The first problem to overcome is really just starting, right? We thought about this idea for over over 2 years before we even took the first step.
You cannot ignore this country. No, and to be from here, I think is an incredible privilege. Nigeria will be ascendant in my lifetime.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay television.
For many years, we've talked about the need to, essentially diversify our revenue stream away from, the huge dependence on oil revenues. It looks like that is happening now. So that means that we're better protected when, you have these wide fluctuations in oil prices and all of that. So it's
as you say, and I agree, that we should commend the government. At least revenues are not falling. There have been times in the past when we recorded drops in revenue. That's not the case today. We're seeing revenues actually going up.
Increasingly, we can see the developed countries focusing on renewable energy and so on and so forth, which means that in the long run, we must look for alternative sources to funding.
So, the government says that crude oil theft has essentially come to an end.
We need to do more to ensure that we totally eliminate crude oil theft and start to think of how to boost production. But it's a good first step. By eliminating crude oil theft, it also creates an incentive for international oil companies to probably return and start to take up more projects in the upstream industries.
Stay ahead with Business Day Mobile, your gateway to Nigeria's most trusted business news, market insights, and expert analysis. With a Business Day Mobile app, you enjoy more than just news. You gain a seamless, intuitive platform designed to keep you informed and empowered. From exclusive articles to in-depth market trends, the app delivers the stories that matter most. Why Business Day Mobile? For premium access, for a clean, responsive design, for a smarter navigation, for customizable alerts, and for all-in-one business hub. Whether you're a business leader, investor, policymaker, or enthusiast, Business Day Mobile brings you closer to the insights shaping Nigeria's business landscape. Download today and put authoritative business journalism right at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere.
Information is everywhere, but insights, that is rare. Business Day Premium gives you analysis, data, and context that keep you ahead. Business Day Premium. Read deeper, decide smarter.
They say money never sleeps. Wake up to clarity, insights, and the stories driving business in Nigeria and beyond.
From the heartbeat of small and medium enterprises to the pulse of national economic policy, this is where business meets perspective. With expert guests, real-time analysis, and stories that matter to you, we go beyond headlines to bring you the full picture.
Join us every morning as we break down the numbers, decode the policies, and spotlight the people shaping our economy. This is Business Money.
We are not just showing off businesses, we're telling the stories behind them. The hustle, the art, the orders, and the wins.
Startup Spotlight, showing every Monday on Business Day television.
Welcome to the Triumph Against Odd podcast.
Most people go through their lives without knowing what their superpower is, right? But if you're lucky enough and determined enough to find your superpower before you get to a certain stage of your life, you will be incredibly successful.
Look, the first thing is you just decide not to look at the challenges, because if you do, it's going to end you.
The closest thing I think is that I had a deeply military background, which is a bit of a never say die background.
I saw an opportunity in non-interest banking, and I felt that the demand was there. There was pent-up demand for it. People were yearning for it, and I felt that if we did it properly, if we brought in professionalism into it, And if we brought in our experiences, our various experiences from various backgrounds into it, that it could succeed.
Very few people do that because very few people explore their superpowers. They just explore bread and butter issues. I need to eat, and
Yes, there will be challenges. This is a very difficult business environment. The government keeps working on how to make business easier.
The first problem to overcome is really just starting, right? We thought about this idea for over 2 years before we even took the first step.
You cannot ignore this country. No, and to be from here, I think is an incredible privilege. Nigeria will be ascendant in my lifetime.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by Business Day Television.
For many years, we've talked about the need to, essentially diversify our revenue stream away from, the huge dependence on oil revenues. It looks like that is happening now. So that means that we're better protected when, you have these wide fluctuations in oil prices and all of that. So it's
as you say, and I agree, that we should commend the government. At least revenues are not falling. There have been times in the past when we recorded drops in revenue. That's not the case today. We're seeing revenues actually going up.
Increasingly, we can see the developed countries focusing on renewable energy and so on and so forth, which means that in the long run, we must look for alternative sources to funding.
So, the government says that crude oil theft has essentially come to an end.
We need to do more to ensure that we totally eliminate crude oil theft and start to think of how to boost production. But it's a good first step. By eliminating crude oil theft, it also creates an incentive for international oil companies to probably return and start to take up more projects in the upstream industries.
Stay ahead with Business Day Mobile, your gateway to Nigeria's most trusted business news, market insights, and expert analysis. With a Business Day Mobile app, you enjoy more than just news. You gain a seamless, intuitive platform designed to keep you informed and empowered. From exclusive articles to in-depth market trends, the app delivers the stories that matter most. Why Business Day Mobile? For premium access, for a clean, responsive design, for a smarter navigation, for customizable alerts, and for all-in-one business hub. Whether you're a business leader, investor, policymaker, or enthusiast, Business Day Mobile brings you closer to the insights shaping Nigeria's business landscape. Download today and put authoritative business journalism right at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere.
Information is everywhere, but insights, that is rare. Business Day Premium gives you analysis, data, and context that keep you ahead. Business Day Premium. Read deeper, decide smarter.
They say money never sleeps. Wake up to clarity, insights, and the stories driving business in Nigeria and beyond.
From the heartbeat of small and medium enterprises to the pulse of national economic policy, this is where business meets perspective. With expert guests, real-time analysis, and stories that matter to you, we go beyond headlines to bring you the full picture.
Join us every morning as we break down the numbers, decode the policies, and spotlight the people shaping our economy. This is Business Morning.
We are not just showing off businesses, but telling the stories behind them. The hustle, the art, the orders, and the wins.
Startup Spotlight, showing every Monday on Business Day Television.
Welcome to the Triumph Against Odd podcast.
Most people go through their lives without knowing what their superpower is, right? But if you're lucky enough and determined enough to find your superpower before you get to a certain stage of your life, you will be incredibly successful.
Look, the first thing is you just decide not to look at the challenges, because if you do, it's going to end you.
The closest thing I think is that I had a deeply military background, which is a bit of a never say die background.
I saw an opportunity in non-interest banking, and I felt that the demand was there. There was pent-up demand for it. People were yearning for it, and I felt that if we did it properly, if we brought in professionalism into it, and if we brought in our experiences, our various experiences from various backgrounds into it, that it could succeed.
Very few people do that because very few people explore their superpowers. They just explore bread and butter issues. I need to eat, and
Yes, there will be challenges. This is a very difficult business environment. The government keeps working on how to make business easier.
The first problem to overcome is really just starting, right? We thought about this idea for over 2 years before we even took the first step.
You cannot ignore this country. No, and to be from here, I think is an incredible privilege. Nigeria will be ascendant in my lifetime.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay television.
For many years, we've talked about the need to, essentially diversify our revenue stream away from, the huge dependence on oil revenues. It looks like that is happening now. So that means that we're better protected when, you have these wide fluctuations in oil prices and all of that. So
But as you say, and I agree, that we should commend the government. At least revenues are not falling. There have been times in the past when we recorded drops in revenue. That's not the case today. We're seeing revenues actually going up.
Increasingly, we can see the developed countries focusing on renewable energy and so on and so forth, which means that in the long run, we must look for alternative sources to funding.
So, the government says that crude oil theft has essentially come to an end.
We need to do more to ensure that we totally eliminate crude oil theft and start to think of how to boost production. But it's a good first step. By eliminating crude oil theft, it also creates an incentive for international oil companies to probably return and start to take up more projects in the upstream industries.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Moses.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Musa.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shred of doubt.
All exporting countries might be over. Can we put a number on the benefit that Nigeria recorded from this?
I mean, Nigeria at some
increase?
point, yes, Nigeria at some point was making close to $23 million a day just from the extra increase in crude oil prices that we saw. I mean, the budget benchmark was $75 per barrel. And then we know that oil prices rose at some point to as high as $100.
Yes.
I mean, it's a pity now that our excess crude account is not as functional as it used to be.
Not only is not functional, there's no reporting, there's no transparency around
so that's what I mean. So it would have been easy to just put a figure on it, at least to hear what the government officials have got to say about just the size of the gains that accrued to the federal government from that. But I mean, there's no doubt that it was a crisis that presented an opportunity for Nigeria. But of course, the revenues came in, but not much to say in terms of where it went. I just hope that I think there were still largely missed opportunities for Nigeria. I think the full gains did not come to bear because Nigeria is more production sensitive than price sensitive, right? So even if you see such a rally in oil prices, if your production is not robust enough to take most gains from that, then you're really not making a lot of profit. But yeah, at some point I did see that we did some analysis that showed that it was about $23 million that the federal government was getting on this from the extra pricing.
Is there any signs that the the war and the elevated oil price is contributed to the foreign reserve accretion that we've seen?
Yes, of course. I think, although truth is, not as much as most people would expect, because for some time now, Nigeria has not really acted like an oil-producing country, if you know what I mean. I think most of the gains that you've seen in the foreign reserves has actually been driven largely by foreign investors, and then it's a smaller bit of it by the rally in crude oil prices, which goes to the point I was making earlier about whether we really made the most of that crisis. But yeah, it's part of why we've seen foreign reserve rise, why we also saw that the Naira was fairly stable, especially when you compare to other African and emerging market currencies where it was severely impacted. So yeah.
What should we expect to see now in domestic petrol prices?
Now that oil prices have gone down, then of course we should expect that the retail price of petrol at the pump will come down as well. We saw some immense pressure on petrol prices as oil prices rose. It went to as high as 1,350 naira per litre. So I'm sure a lot of Nigerians will be giving a huge sigh of relief now, expecting that with the reduction in crude oil prices globally, then of course it can also significantly or positively impact the retail price of petrol, which is good for inflation, right? You were talking earlier about how countries like Ghana and Ethiopia were doing well last year until this whole crisis just upended all of that disinflationary environment that we're seeing. Same with Nigeria as well. We're off the back of like 11 months of disinflationary trend, right? Before this started, and then we've seen two successive months of uptick. So let's see what the data.
So how quickly can we begin to see impact on? Let's talk about petrol, and then we'll go to inflation. We were where before the war. We were about 800,
900,
850, 900 per litre in locations like Lagos. And it's risen by about 400-500 naira. That's almost a 50% increase. There was always the argument that the increase in petrol price seemed to have been steeper in Nigeria than in some other
countries.
countries, and that's so do we now expect the relief to be quite as steep as well? So what do you expect would happen to petrol price, say, in a week or two? When we expect oil price to be in the 70s?
Yeah, I expect oil. I think petrol prices will decline for sure. Dangote is the largest supplier of petrol products to Nigeria right now, and it's been getting some of its crude supplies from the federal government. So, if that continues, then of course it should trickle down to lower petrol prices.
What do you expect to see?
I don't want to put a figure to it, but I imagine that. So when it was between 850 to 900. The global oil price was around 78.
Yeah, or 70, 71 or something.
So I think if we want to go back to that level, then of course oil prices will need to fall by that. But as of this morning, it was $84 per barrel, right? So
we still have another $12.
I think I saw something this morning where they were saying many petrol operators were doing around 900 if oil price continues to drop.
Okay, so they expect a sub 1,000 per liter.
Well, in Nigeria, things rise pretty fast, but when it's time for it to cool,
it will take time. That's what I'm saying. So I'm not sure we might begin to see the immediate effect this week or this month. Because when prices come down, it's not sudden. It's only when prices increase to just spike. But when it comes down, it just take a gradual process.
No, I don't agree. I expect Dangote to reduce price this week.
Okay.
It may not be by much of a margin, but there has to be a symbolic an acknowledgement that international prices are going down. Well, the interesting thing, and I think Lolade had alluded to it earlier, about how it is that over this period, Dangote refinery was taking more crude out of Nigeria, which helped Nigeria to maintain a premium of around $5 a barrel plus Brent for its crude oil. How did that happen? How come when things were tighter, Nigeria was able to supply more crude to Dangote, and when things were when we were at peace, we were not able to supply? Is it because I think the market, the international market, was short against us?
Absolutely. So I think that also then limited the amount of buyers for Nigerian crude as well, and then just left Dangote in the clear to really take on extra supplies. So, but with what has happened, obviously Dangote has just essentially doubled down on home purchases, right? Given that a lot of foreign buyers pulled back a bit because of the disruptions with the Strait of Hormuz.
And there was also significant demand for American crude that Dangote refinery was buying in the past, given that it was the most promising source of petrol. Let's pivot to inflation.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, please.
Now that oil prices are coming down, I know that because of what happened, major African countries were buying petrol from Dangote.
Yeah, that's a refined product.
Refined petrol. What happens to that now?
They'll continue to buy until
Dangote.
They'll continue to buy. I think the point that's been made is the normalization is not going to happen automatically. The trade flows that have been established in the course of this war will continue, and people would have more choice. And then, of course, if they choose not to buy, which is unlikely, because you're dealing here with availability and pricing ultimately. But I think the petrol will find a lot of space in Nigeria. You may have excess in terms of aviation fuel that Dangote has almost become a major global supplier of. But we'll see as the price goes down and the Strait of Hormuz is opened. We will see how much of confidence there is for ship owners to resume,
shipments.
So let's hope so. I think it's good for the global economy, especially because of inflation. So let's go to inflation. We expect that the deceleration may resume in Nigeria if oil prices go down. Is that the idea?
So
I know there's a real conversation on Africa inflation later, but I wanted to just finish this before we pivot to that.
Okay, so for Nigeria,
I would say not this month. Maybe when inflation numbers for maybe July comes out, we begin to see it.
No, but the one that will be released this month is
for May,
right?
yes.
So
Of course, we'll continue to see an uptick.
Yeah.
I think that should be for the third time. I think the last inflation rate for April was, I think, 15.6. I'm seeing many people saying that although there's going to be a month-on-month moderation, but I'm like, why? Because if you know what happened last month, we had, I think, the Salah, and then RAM prices were high, then market food prices were high. For example, tomato. I remember going to the market. I mean, a small bowl of tomato that would cost like 500 was now 1,000, even up to now. And you know what happens to inflation figure? And that food contributes more than 50% to inflation figures. We'll see a spike in that. Already, other African countries are already seeing a spike in inflation rates for me. I mean, the chart that you shared with me, I mean, fine. Ethiopia entered double digits in April. That continued to about 13.4%. Ghana also increased, and some other African countries. But I think there's something that we're actually missing out here. We should pay attention to.
Yeah.
So very few African countries are actually seeing a decline or debunking these inflation trends we're seeing. I mean, one example is Zambia. I mean, Southern African country. But what I also noticed that is really helping them is their currency against the dollar. It has actually stabilized since last year. And why? Because of the demand of copper. I hear that there is huge demand for copper. Copper prices are rising because people are now producing more, building data centers, electronics, and all those. So
there's a global demand.
So that opportunity, taking advantage of that opportunity, just to be able to ease inflationary pressures. That is why since December, when they
the kwacha that is driving the disinflation trend in Zambia.
Exactly. So when they now entered, I think single digits in January, they had maintained that. Not increase. Currently, they're about 6.6%. Another one we should also look at Angola, just like oil producers, exporters, just like Nigeria too. Also, the currency has actually also been helping them. They've been recording this inflation since like I think mid 2024. Yeah, 2024. So that's continued. Egypt also saw a decline in inflation rate in May, but that is just temporary. It's
But
if
Angola is benefiting from what is happening.
I don't want to talk to get deeper into this inflation point, since we will come back to it after the break. But what I find interesting, and this is a comment I'd like to make before we go on break, is that if you look at Africa, there are bright spots. Yeah. We talk about copper in Zambia, we talk about oil in Nigeria. And what you're likely going to see is that Africa will come out of this Gulf War much better than it emerged from similar economic dislocation in the past. And I hope that African leaders will begin to identify what their strengths are or comparative advantage. So that they can push that, because the next crisis is just around the corner. One madness by one leader, and then that's it. Well, this is Business Week, brought to you by BusinessDay Television. We will go on a short break, and we will be back. Please don't go away. Welcome. This is Business Week, brought to you by BusinessDay Television. And thank you for rejoining us after the short break. We will now like to talk about the inflationary numbers for different African countries. What I think I saw in the graph, even if you say it's slightly dated, the graph that I saw was quite a number of African countries are sub 10 when it comes to inflation. So the pain really wasn't commonly shared across the continent. So Bumi, you probably want to take us through what numbers are we looking at for the different countries, especially for peer countries?
I talked about Zambia, for example.
And how was the percentage? Let's just go through percentage.
6.6%.
Okay.
You have for Ghana, I think around 3.8%.
Mhm.
For about 3.4% in
Mhm.
April.
And then Nigeria is
And
there 15%.
15.6%. Well, when it comes in today, maybe I've seen many analysts projecting that it would drop to around 5.0%. I don't know.
5.0.
Yeah, that was what I saw.
For Nigeria?
Yes, for Nigeria.
Correct.
I saw it, I was like, how?
A miracle.
I saw it, I was like, okay, let's see what the numbers will tell us.
Egypt is what?
Egypt is around, interestingly, I think Egypt is around, let's say, 14.0%. It dropped from 14.6%. But I think what is also interesting, which I should have brought in, was
Yes.
Angola.
Mhm.
Angola is nearing single-digit inflation rate. If you've noticed last year, many African countries were entering into single-digit inflation
Before
trend
the war
before
in
this thing
Iran.
started. In fact, my own fear was this would actually distort or make many of them to just go into double digits trend, which would now affect the gains, because many central banks, which were actually hiking interest rates to control inflation, were already dropping inflation rates since last year. But this year, many of them had to do a wait and see.
But let me ask a question, Bumi. I mean, you focus on the economies of Africa. How come that Nigeria's inflation was so elevated and other countries like Ghana and Angola, Zambia were dealing with interest rates of about a third, or even a quarter of Nigeria? So what happened?
I think.
How did we miss it so
I
much?
think those countries have been able to identify the opportunities that would help to ease inflationary pressures. I mean, if you look at Ghana, I mean, one of the major exports is gold. I mean, gold surged to record high. I mean, last year, they took opportunity. They had to introduce some reforms to boost gold production. I know that before, they were impacted by illegal gold mining, which affected production. So they had to put those measures or reforms in place to be able to increase gold production so that they can take opportunities of the record high gold
But
prices.
isn't that what Nigeria did as well by fighting crude oil stealing that has eased significantly?
Yeah.
And that was impactful on production and exports.
Mm-hmm.
I think in Nigeria's case, the high base is also a problem.
So the high base,
because we've had a long history of
I wanted to ask, how did we get there?
The journey of inflation, I mean, don't forget that at some point it was pushing around 30% before the NBS.
In fact, I really don't want to say well, it's NBS, because if you've noticed now, I mean, the only data that have been up to date for NBS, inflation, GDP, capital importation, all the other data that we can track to really see the real performance of how the economy is doing.
Nigeria, if you look at those other African countries, how many of them embarked on the type of reforms that we did in 2023 that
Egypt
triggered inflation?
That
in 2023.
That triggered inflation,
Yes.
like increased
Where
inflation.
was inflation in 2023 before Tinubu's administration was one?
I think
16 point something percent.
no,
Yeah?
So that was still elevated.
That was 24%.
Yeah, so that was-
Average was 24%. On an average, it was 24%.
For the year.
For the year, it was 24%. Before it spiked to about 33%, but they now had to do the methodology that now shrink the numbers.
But I think those reforms, for sure, you're taking away petrol subsidy. You know what? That led to like a
So it was not just the takeaway of the subsidy; it was the significant increase in price.
Yes.
of
So all of that, exactly. So all of that happened. Of course, these other countries did not embark on
which is also part of the problem that people raised with the implementation of the reforms. That taking off the price in one decision was crazy, and that doing that the same time that you were adjusting the currency rate management was also a big problem. Have we learned our lessons? Is Nigeria now in a better, can we say we now have better managers of the economy, that we are now in a position to avoid some of the mistakes of the past? Certainly with exchange rate management,
and
the evidence is there.
Yeah, that's a bright spot for me. And I think it speaks to why, if you look at the composition of our capital inflows, a lot has been FPI and not FDI. It just goes to show that a lot of the heavy lifting is being done by the monetary side, right? So I think the current CBN administration we have now has demonstrated that you can make the right decisions at the right time, going through orthodox policy. People know what to expect from time to time. So I think from that area, yes, I'll say we're better prepared for any other crisis. And you can see, I'm surprised. The Naira has been very stable for the last 18 months now, despite all of the turmoil happening in the backdrop, around the world. It's been very stable. The CBN has been very level-headed. There were opportunities,
and not only that it's stable. Reserves are also
precisely.
Rising.
There's been that opportunity to just sell dollars and then crash the rate like some other central bank governors in the past would have done. But I think this other central bank governor is just trying to stabilize
in a level-headed manner.
Exactly. So people know it's very predictable. You know what to expect with the exchange rate. You're not seeing sharp swings. Because you also have to be careful. If the Naira appreciates too fast, then of course you're putting pressure on the FPI flows that has been driving that stability, because a lot of those foreign investors might then want to take profit and go because of that sudden appreciation in the currency.
But
so this has been the right
but
approach.
that has not really, if we look at FDI, which is very important, that has not really brought in FDI.
So let's make this switch. Let's make the switch and begin to talk about FDI now. Yeah. So Bumi, go on.
It has not really brought in foreign direct investment.
What has not brought in foreign direct investment?
No, I meant, for example, like you're talking about how the currency has been stable. For me, I think it's still high. So I think when the Naira was, I think,
so FDI is not FDI flows do not match the FPI flows. Is that your concern, Bumi?
Yeah, look at it. If you look at the numbers from the from the NBS, I mean, FBI inflows was around close to, I think, 10 billion. It was 9.8 Q1. Yes.
No, but the point is, I've seen a number of articles that tend to disdain the heavy inflow of FPIs. I think there is a way with Nigerians. When things are good, they say they are too good. Truth is, FDI tends to lag improvement in an economy. The fact that you are seeing stability does not immediately translate into a crazy flow of FDI into the country. It will take a while. FDI guys are not like the FBIs who can come and go at will. When an FDI investment is made here, it stays for a while. So before you do that, there are other things that you need to look at. And as people say, there are other conditions in Nigeria. One of them, of course, is the exchange rate stability that we're seeing. But there are other things around dispute resolution, for instance, and other things that land acquisition, ease of doing business. So there are other things that affect inflows of FDIs. What I am worried about, I am not hearing a government focus on, say, how do we debottleneck the economy to be able to bring in FDI. It's as if we've done all the work and they've gone to bed.
If you remember the story you did the other day in 2023, Egypt and Nigeria both devalued their currency. But I think Egypt did in 2016, but that year they devalued the currency. And then what I've noticed is that FDI investments for Egypt in 2024, they got about 46 billion. And that's contributed almost more than 60% of the total FDI for Africa. That's about 90%.
But you need to look at the uniqueness of Egypt.
Like
the Arab countries have helped Egypt significantly, but we don't have Arab brothers.
But sir, if you look at the,
because if you look at that FDI, most of them would have come from the rich Gulf nations.
Yes.
We don't have those people.
But do you know that last year, the Gulf nations like Saudi, there was an article I did where I looked at how, I think there's I forgot the company in Qatar that committed serious investment into like about 6 or 7 African countries, also about 103. Nigeria was not part of it.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So what are we now doing in place? Fine, you've talked about the fact that fine, the currency is stable, but there are other things that still needs to be done. Do you understand? What are we doing? Let's look at you, because
the cost of doing business in Nigeria is
still very high.
Remember when World Bank used to release ease of doing business index, but they stopped so that we could gauge and understand how it is.
But
So,
typically the way it happens anyway, and that's why I don't agree with people who are almost now demonizing FPI. FPI typically comes first when it reforms. It comes first. It tests the waters.
They come first, they go first.
Yes. Then before you have it, because if anything happens, they're out in a flash.
Yeah.
But when you're a foreign direct investor, if there's any turmoil, you can't just leave. So for them, they're looking more long term. They're thinking about succession. They're saying, okay, yes, you have a president in place now that's been implemented.
They think about elections.
They think about elections. They think about okay, so the cycles. Even after this current administration, is Nigeria now more like a? Are you breaking all of those socialist leanings that you've had over time? Because you had 8 years of socialist leanings with Buhari. So is what kind of economic structure are you tilting towards? They need to see that, and then if they are sure that you can sustain that momentum such that there's predictability. People know that even after the current president, if another president comes in, it's still going to stay the course of the kind of reforms that you're seeing, market-oriented reforms. Exactly. Then they can come. But the truth is, there's no such guarantee.
Even
because you just need to look at the interest you're offering on your debt, and that's why they're not going to the stock market. So even if you slow down.
And I think it's important to make the point that the little of the FDI you have seen, most of it has gone into the oil and gas, an area that is beginning to show some promise because of government reforms. I personally, I don't even think the reforms are enough, but at least we're seeing some movement there. If you want to really see FDI, I want to see FDI come into power. That's one area where there is significant opportunity. But FDI won't come there when government controls tariff.
Exactly.
It won't happen. Agriculture is another area where there is significant opportunity. But we all know the chaos with insecurity. FDI is not going to come. So those who are shouting, where's FDI? What are they talking about? I don't understand.
FDI cannot go to manufacturing as well.
It can't.
Because you haven't got power, you haven't got the infrastructure.
Precisely. So I think it's important for us. And people shouldn't forget that FDI normally follows domestic investment.
Absolutely.
When our people are not investing because of the issues that we raise now, why should we expect that FDI will come? It won't.
And I think we need to make that point even more. I think we need to take it very seriously. People almost think that it's very important for foreign direct investors, even before they get to the point where they are looking to invest in your country. The first thing they do is pick up their phone and ring up all the local investors there.
Yeah, precisely, because when they come in, they are going to join a local investor. They won't come on their own.
Like, what do you think? So if the feedback they're getting, they say, oh man, interest rates are so high. The cost of generating your own power is expensive. Exactly. But when you add all of that up, then you realize that the cost of doing business in neighboring Ghana is easier, it's cheaper than in Nigeria. So there's an incentive to go to Ghana and
even the multinationals are even here, they were the ones that were bloody hot by the
and even our taxes. I mean, I know that we have reformed our tax
but our taxes are still elevated.
Still very elevated.
So sometimes it's as if we are not keen about competing against others.
Absolutely,
we're just doing our own thing.
Thinking that people will the investment will just fall on our laps because we have a large market. But the world has evolved. There are a lot of other countries, even those smaller markets that are attracting good capital now.
Exactly.
And their market, they target big markets like Nigeria, but they don't have to operate out of Nigeria.
I mean, the president's $1 trillion target for 2030. I don't know if it still sounds like
the point I make about that is the president makes an announcement that it will be $1 trillion economy. You ask yourself, how many times have there been sessions in the presidency to review the movement towards that target?
Exactly.
What announcements have we made to show that we are serious about it? Where are we today in terms of the $1 trillion? Are we anywhere near it? Are we going to meet it? What must we do? Nobody's asking all those questions.
Even the time that the president was traveling a lot to get FDI, what's happened? Why are we not seeing it? Those commitments that were made.
Okay. The final point today will be to look at why the significant stock rally has not led to a deluge in IPOs in Nigeria? Why?
Well, it's really baffling. The Nigerian stock market has returned up over 50% this year. You'd expect that, that signals a lot of investor confidence. That signals a lot of appetite for Nigerian stocks and liquidity, right? But the truth is, there's still not enough market depth. Even though we know that the stock market capitalization now has gone from being 10% of GDP to where it is now at 30%. It has grown, but it's still not deep enough, especially for newcomers. Even the Dangote refinery that is planning an IPO, there's a reason why he decided that, hold on a minute, I'm not going to leave all my eggs in the Nigerian basket. I'll open it up to ensure that multiple African stock markets and multiple investors across Africa can also participate in that, because the worry really is that you might not get appropriate pricing in Nigeria because there isn't enough liquidity. So that is still the big problem. So even
is it a liquidity problem or a deployment of funds problem? The banks raised how much?
Yeah,
largely from Nigeria. Where did they raise that from? Shouldn't that be a measure of the depth of liquidity in the Nigerian system?
Yeah. So I mean, the banks raised some money from foreign sources and then local sources. It was a mix of it. But the truth is, so in the Nigerian stock market, historically has been driven largely by institutional investors, mostly foreign, right? But in 2016, you saw that change a bit because of the exchange rate issues we had. A lot of those foreign institutional investors pulled out and then left the market to local investors. So the question to ask now is that today, do you have the foreign guys back at the same level that they were in the market in 2014? The answer is
no.
So, but if you had a situation where you have that contributing as well to the liquidity and the depth of the market, perhaps you'd have seen more IPOs because some of these guys are more investment savvy than the local investors that we have in Nigeria, but they are not back yet. If you even look at if you dimension the capital importation report,
are they waiting for Dangote refinery?
Maybe,
in fact,
but there are still some very quality. I think I really don't know what they are waiting for, really, because there are a lot of quality stocks that are still listed that normally would attract foreign investors. So I would say it's just Dangote refinery.
But I hear in news that sorry to come in, that many companies are waiting. They are being cautious not to list. They are waiting to see Dangote lists so that they would know how much capital he would raise. Because if they list and then Dangote, he might just take all.
You have a point there, because if you list before Dangote, nobody's going to. People will just be like, no, I'm waiting for you won't raise anything. That makes sense.
So it's better for Dangote to come so that we can get back to our lives.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But are there other reasons why companies are not listing? Can we look at listing conditions? Can we look at why do companies typically list? If companies don't need to raise, because you would have thought that with the high interest rate, people will pivot to alternatives like listing on the stock exchange to raise. Is it that companies aren't? Because that goes back to the same point. They are not hungry for expansion.
Yeah.
And so they don't need money.
Yeah.
Or need cash.
I think that's definitely part of what we're seeing. Yeah.
So how do you catalyze that hunger for expansion, which makes companies want to raise cash?
It's really about the economy, right?
Does that go to disposable income?
Yes. It's about boosting disposable income, the purchasing power.
Reduce inflation.
Yeah, reduce inflation, all of that.
Increase economic
So that then inadvertently increases demand. And then once you have that, then you can see companies that are willing to expand and do all of that. Yeah, so maybe we don't have enough reasons for businesses to, embark on those big expansion plans. But that doesn't apply to Dangote refinery, obviously, because it's set a very big target.
Dangote refinery is in a class of its own. Are there regulatory measures that can be taken? Last year or the year before, the Director General of the BPE had said that they were going to test the market by listing some power assets. That hasn't happened. We were hoping that would be like a catalyst, but that has not happened. It's probably something that we need to go back to and find out why 2 years after nothing has happened.
That's definitely something to revisit. Even NNPC.
And even an NPC as well. So is there anything that can be done just to encourage, if not compel, empty and listed because government provided a carrot, maybe some stick as well. Is there a way that government can do more around that? Before we go,
I think what the government really needs to do is to just focus on the economy, create incentives for companies to want to expand. Once you create incentives for companies to want to expand,
you leave them to make the decisions where they get their
foreign
capital.
investors can come in and
it's a no-brainer. I mean, the interest rates in the debt market is killing. So most people would just rather go the path of equity. So, but if the economy is not performing well enough, then obviously that dampens sentiments. It also means that if a company does venture towards listing on the stock exchange, you might not raise the required capital because
we did a story around what's happening to banking and financial services stock around Africa and Nigeria bucking the trend. What exactly? In terms of profitability. What's happening to Nigerian banks?
Yeah, so you've seen a period where you had the devaluation, the revaluation gains more or less boosted profits to levels that you haven't seen before.
But that's disappeared.
And then that has disappeared. That's one. Then two is also the forbearance that they all had to exit. The CBN forbearance. So a lot of banks took efforts. So you've seen profit declines. So you're coming from the base, very high base, profits that were propped up by revaluation gains, and then now that is out, and then you see the banks now having to book even larger amounts of money
for how many years will this happen? Or do we expect?
I think they will be back by this year. Everything will normalize.
Especially with the capitalization.
Have
they got more cash now?
Have they all made the provision?
Yes.
All the banks.
Most
the
of
big
them
ones.
are expanding,
they expanded. I mean, Access Bank made a statement last week that no more purchase of banks. No more expansion
because Access Bank is a very curious bank. Access Bank is trading at around 25 naira per share. All of the other banking stocks this year are up by an average of 50%. Access Bank is only up by 8%.
What is happening to Access Bank?
So the question investors are asking is this acquisition spree that the bank has been
where's the benefit?
Exactly.
That's what I keep wondering.
Exactly. So I think what is happening now is that they realize that and they just want to say, you know what, let's
consolidate.
Precisely. Let's digest all of these acquisitions and see it translate to real benefits to whether top line or bottom line before we can make any more. But the way they've gone at it in the past, it hasn't really excited.
So that's why it was just expansion for the sake of expansion. Now questions are being asked around efficiency.
Exactly.
Exactly. Fantastic.
Efficiency.
Fantastic. Well, we will be dropping the baton at this point. We examined inflation around Africa. We looked at why the rally in the stock market has not produced IPOs, especially given the SpaceX and other things that are happening around the world, and the billionaires and trillionaires and millionaires that IPOs can create. It means that we are being starved of those kinds of things. And of course, we have looked at the situation with oil prices and the hope that the agreement by Iran and the US will reduce the inflationary push, and hopefully we can see Nigeria's march towards a single-digit inflation at some point down the road. Well, this has been another edition of Business Week. With me has been Bumi, and of course Lolade, regular guest on this program. We will see you again on Monday, and God bless you.
Information is everywhere, but insights, that is rare. Business Day Premium gives you analysis, data, and context that keep you ahead. Business Day Premium. Read deeper, decide smarter.
They say money never sleeps. Wake up to clarity, insights, and the stories driving business in Nigeria and beyond.
From the heartbeat of small and medium enterprises to the pulse of national economic policy, this is where business meets perspective. With expert guests, real-time analysis, and stories that matter to you. We go beyond headlines to bring you the full picture.
Join us every morning as we break down the numbers, decode the policies, and spotlight the people shaping our economy. This is Business Money.
We are not just showing off businesses. We're telling the stories behind there. The hustle, the art, the orders, and the wins.
Startup Spotlight, showing every Monday on Business Day television.
Welcome to the Triumph Against Odd podcast.
Most people go through their lives without knowing what their superpower is, right? But if you're lucky enough and determined enough to find your superpower before you get to a certain stage of your life, you will be incredibly successful.
Look, the first thing is you just decide not to look at the challenges, because if you do, it's going to end you.
The closest thing I think is that I had a deeply military background, which is a bit of a never say die background.
I saw an opportunity in non-interest banking, and I felt that the demand was there. There was pent-up demand for it. People were yearning for it, and I felt that if we did it properly, if we brought in professionalism into it, and if we brought in our experiences, our various experiences from various backgrounds into it, that it could succeed.
Very few people do that because very few people explore their superpowers. They just explore bread and butter issues. I need to eat, and
Yes, there will be challenges. This is a very difficult business environment. The government keeps working on how to make business easier.
The first problem to overcome is really just starting, right? We thought about this idea for over 2 years before we even took the first step.
You cannot ignore this country. No, and to be from here, I think is an incredible privilege. Nigeria will be ascendant in my lifetime.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay Television.
For many years, we've talked about the need to, essentially diversify our revenue stream away from, the huge dependence on oil revenues. It looks like that is happening now. So that means that we're better protected when, you have these wide fluctuations in oil prices and all of that. So
But as you say, and I agree, that we should commend the government. At least revenues are not falling. There have been times in the past when we recorded drops in revenue. That's not the case today. We're seeing revenues actually going up.
Increasingly, we can see the developed countries focusing on renewable energy and so on and so forth, which means that in the long run, we must look for alternative sources to funding.
So the government says that crude oil theft has essentially come to an end.
We need to do more to ensure that we totally eliminate crude oil theft and start to think of how to boost production. But it's a good first step. By eliminating crude oil theft, it also creates an incentive for international oil companies to probably return and start to take up more projects in the upstream industries.
Stay ahead with Business Day Mobile, your gateway to Nigeria's most trusted business news, market insights, and expert analysis. With a Business Day Mobile app, you enjoy more than just news. You gain a seamless, intuitive platform designed to keep you informed and empowered. From exclusive articles to in-depth market trends, the app delivers the stories that matter most. Why Business Day Mobile? For premium access, for a clean, responsive design, for a smarter navigation, for customizable alerts, and for all-in-one business hub. Whether you're a business leader, investor, policymaker, or enthusiast, Business Day Mobile brings you closer to the insights shaping Nigeria's business landscape. Download today and put authoritative business journalism right at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere.
Information is everywhere,
Entrepreneurship is for everybody, but not everybody is for entrepreneurship.
They are the dreamers.
I remember it was like 3 a.m. by 21st of December 2021.
The disruptors.
Luxury is not affordable, let's be real.
The doers.
BCB Academy has trained over 3,000 event professionals.
In a place where the odds don't play fair. They play harder.
I would like my business to be remembered as one of the homegrown organizations that has helped with shaping the narrative of this continent positively.
From first-time founders to industry giants, this is where serious business meets unexpected terms.
I could stay up hours of the night just watching things about space.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs Lounge with Norma, where we unravel the buzz and glamorous headshots to bring you the untold.
When I went for youth service, where I was sent to, instead of me to go to work, I went to go and learn how to sew.
Raw.
I'm blown away by the challenges they're facing.
And real stories of Nigeria's fearless young entrepreneurs.
And not only yes.
Watch Entrepreneurs Lounge with Norma every Tuesday on BusinessDay television.
Welcome to Business Morning segment on the Breakfast Show right here on Business Day Television, and we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insights into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Norma Obuna, and it's great to have you with us this morning. Technology has become an essential part of modern life, influencing how we communicate, learn, work, and entertain ourselves. As tech companies continue to develop products that shape our daily experiences, a critical question emerges. Are these products genuinely designed to improve users' lives, or are they primarily created to drive profits and business growth? To help us understand the implications and answer this big question today is Yuchini Bida, who is a brilliant product manager. Welcome to the show, Yuchini.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on your program today.
You're welcome. So we have a lot of questions today, because today's topic, as you can see, well. people are wondering, are we being farmed for just money, or are those products that you make and manage meant to improve our lives? And today I just want to know, as product management, from your perspective, what truly drives product development in tech companies today? Are they user needs or just for profitability?
Thank you for this question. In tech companies, product development is really driven by one factor. It is an interface between the user needs and profitability. However, business also needs sustainable revenue. That is why it is very much interesting that to look at the sustainability aspect instead of just relying on the user need. User need is what at the end drive the product to achieving what you want to achieve, because if you put the users in your core, it therefore means that the designing a product will dependently much on the users, and by the time you have them, the long-term sustainability of that company will be very key. The challenge for product managers is ensuring that profit is a result of creating genuine value rather than extracting value from users. The healthiest companies view profitability as an outcome of customer satisfaction, not just substitute for it. So it has to be a continuous engagement, looking at your users' benefits and the profitability angle. Because at the core, what even brings about the creation of a product is their need for users in the market. What do they really need? As you're doing that, you have to design it considering so many factors. So as you do that, you should equally remember that sustainability of that particular tech company is very important. So it has to be the balance of two in whatever you do. So while engineers and designers often focus on solving users' problem, corporate survival dictates that solution must be financially viable. Thank you very much.
So many digital platforms are free to use but heavily monetized through advertising, which many people have started experiencing. You can't even scroll through any page now without seeing an advertisement. So how does that business model influence the user experience?
Okay, the advertising-based business model dictates almost every aspect of user experience. It influences so much. Simply because users are not ready to pay. Most users are not ready to pay. Permit me to use that. Not all users. So in that particular situation, you have to create a model where you should be able to get a balance. Like I said earlier, the sustainability angle of it is key. So some funds can be getting from the advertisement angle because not all users are ready to pay for product. So you have to find a way. But ultimately, that model can create that monetization, that advice can create tremendous access affordability for an emerging market. For example, Nigeria is an emerging market. It's not yet fully structured. So you have to find a way that you can balance it because funds, it's something that is very important in the tech company as well for sustainability, like I said earlier on. So we have to make sure that we have a balance. Everything we're doing has to be a balance in terms of the product. When users don't pay with money, companies often generate revenue through advertising, which means attention becomes an important business asset. However, it can also incentivize products to maximize time spent rather than maximize value delivered. So product teams must be careful that advertising supports experience rather than dominating it. So like I said earlier, it has to be the balance. It has to be something that has to be a continuous engagement, not just sticking to a single model. It has to be a different model to have a balance so that you can equally maximize the user benefit and also the sustainability angle of the business. Thank you very much.
Okay, so you are saying, if I get what you're saying, that we need to find a middle ground where the app is both profitable and also helping users improve their lives.
Very true. Very true. Okay. That's exactly what I'm saying.
All right. So with features like
because when the platform is heavily monetized through art, its primary design goal is no longer just maximizing user satisfaction, but user satisfaction is key. So let's not heavily depend on it. That's just what I'm saying.
All right. All right. Thank you so much for clearing that up. So features like infinite scrolling, play rather, and constant notifications are designed to increase engagement, if you agree with me. At what point does engagement become manipulation, where people can no longer step away from their phones even?
All right. Engagement becomes manipulation at the tipping point of autonomy, which occurs when a platform interface actively overrides a user's conscience, intent, psychological well-being, or self-control to exert economic value. Meaning, if the whole idea about it is the product, you don't care about ethical considerations, you don't care about some certain things that ordinarily could help, then it shows that it's a manipulation. So engagement becomes manipulation when design choices primarily serve the platform's interest while undermining the user's ability to make informed and intentional decisions. A useful test is transparency and control. If users clearly understand what's happening and can easily choose how they interact with the product, that's engagement. How they interact with the product creates an engagement. So that's key. But when psychological triggers are used to keep people consuming content beyond their intentions, what are the intentions? What are the user's needs? When you create a product that goes beyond the user's need, it's now manipulation. So we begin entering into ethical questions. 33. because there are ethics to how products are managed. There are regulations, there are laws. So, but when you now make it in such a way that the user interface is beyond the intention, it's manipulating and taking advantage of, let's say, like a growing environment like Nigeria.
Okay, so I would like to also know, do tech companies intentionally compete for human attention, and how central is the attention economy to modern product strategy?
Again, please. I'm so sorry.
Okay. So I'll take the question again. So I said, do tech companies intentionally compete for human attention? Because we can see that human attention is the new currency here. And how central is the attention economy for modern product strategy?
Absolutely. Attention has become one of the most valuable resources in the digital economy. You can't put on a product and you just go for, let's look for views. You just put on a product like this program we're doing, you look at the views. If you don't have much view, it's giving you some sort of a bad review, right? So, yes, tech companies intentionally compete for human attention, treating it as a scarce commodity that is directly tied to revenue growth. That doesn't necessarily mean attention is bad. The question is what companies do with that attention once they have earned it. The most responsible organizations focus on creating meaningful engagement rather than simply maximizing screen time. So when you have the attention, what do you do? What do you feed your users? What sort of a product do you do? Does it help them? Is it aligning to your vision, to the purpose of designing those products in the first place? You get the attention. So what next? So looking at maximizing it, taking advantage of it to equally benefit the users is key.
Okay. All right, so let me take you back a bit to what we were earlier talking about when it comes to manipulation and the psychological weapons as well. So I would want to know, are consumers becoming more aware that their time, behavior, and data are effectively part of products that are being sold in today's market?
Yes, the consumers are highly aware of it. They know what is happening. They are increasingly understanding that their clicks, preferences, behaviors, and attention have economic value. That's why some of them now group themselves into what you call influencers, into different type of community. It's a whole ecosystem. So they understand that. However, awareness is not the same as understanding. Not all of them understand the economic value of what they're doing, how they are doing it, and how they could be able to maximize every particular product. Many users still don't fully grasp how data is collected, analyzed, and monetized. This creates a responsibility for companies to be more transparent. As much as we are into our products, we should also understand that we and the users are a team. One cannot exist without the other.
Absolutely.
The product, the company for sustainability, the users for making sure that we achieve that sustainability. Without them, definitely you can't even think about designing a product. So they are our targeted audience. So when we see ourselves as partners, that's why we have to make sure we have a responsibility to be more transparent to them and for them to understand definitely what we are into.
Okay, thank you so much for that wonderful take. I would want us to go back to when you talked about balance. So how do product teams balance business growth targets with user well-being and ethical concerns as well?
Okay. Product team balance business growth targets with users' well-being by implementing explicit ethical guardrails, alternative metrics, and counterbalancing KPIs, key performance indicators. So the best products team recognize that users' well-being and long-term business success are not opposing goals. In fact, they are often aligned. Like I said earlier, it's partners, we're partners. So responsible team measures not only growth metrics, but also trust, retention, customer satisfaction, safety, and overall user outcomes. the conversation should move beyond can we build this or should we build this, and what are the long-term consequences, not just wanting to build a product, not just wanting to enter into the market. What are the long-term consequences of what we're doing? Because there's a digital footprint in whatever we do, so we should be able to know that we're being monitored in whatever we're doing. And we could be called to account for each and every of our actions at every given time. So that's why the long-term consequences of such should be factored.
So I was about to ask you about accountability just now, but you already answered that. But I would like you to throw more light on if product managers should be held accountable for the psychological and social impact of the products that they create.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
All right, so sorry. Yeah. I think whether product managers should be held accountable or not is a matter that has to be given some careful considerations. There is this vicarious relationship, or what do they call it? Of course, I think, to my own thinking as a product manager, this should be a consideration. Product managers make decisions that influence how millions of people interact with technology. Because that influence, ethical thinking should be considered a professional responsibility. Just as the financial decisions have consequences, decisions have consequences too. So whatever it takes, we should, as a matter of policy, make sure that for every product design, ethical issues should be at the front.
Okay.
We should not just set up a product for the simple fact that we want to manipulate. One, we want to take advantage. Two, most especially in an environment like Nigeria, there's an emerging tech market. So we should be able to know. And one thing about Nigerians that I can see is that we're community in nature. We're communal in nature, rather.
Yes,
sorry, please.
yes.
We're communal in nature. So in a way, we are connected. We're in a escapable network of mutuality. In a way, if you don't do it so right, you may be affecting someone so dear to you. So those things should be a factor, even if you think nothing will happen. Because of our interconnectivity as a community, it has a way of coming back to you. It could be boomerang. So definitely, people should be accountable for any product design.
Thank you so much. So I also want to know, in markets like Nigeria, as you said, we're very communal, where our digital adoption is rapidly growing, and are users more vulnerable to exploitative platform design?
Yes. There are certainly unique vulnerabilities. There are a lot of vulnerable people in the market because I think not all of us enter into the market at the same time, most especially the users. Not all of us view products the same way. Some people want it for one function or the other. So in that particular something, many internet users are joining digital platforms faster than digital literacy. Most people just feel once phone is in their hands, they just want to do it. That's why I think recently, I think the UK is trying to introduce a law that you have to be 16 years before you can access the social media. So those are some of the things that they are trying to save. These are safeguard mechanism for the vulnerable people. So equally, we should look at this can make it harder to recognize manipulative patterns if there are no laws, there are no checks in place, because there are some people that misinform. Some of the people are predatory. Monetary strategies done by those products. So they have a different intention with that. So whatever the situation, at the same time, Nigeria has one of the world's most innovative and entrepreneurial digital populations. So whatever we do, I will always emphasize, you don't just do the product for the product itself. You don't just look at the company. You have to look at the user benefit as well. Because whether you like it or not, at the end, without those, you cannot be able to be sustainable. Sustainability plan is equally important in whatever you are designing. So for you to be able to achieve a sustainability plan, you have to consider the user benefit as well.
Okay, so for users that are vulnerable and are not waiting for the government to maybe provide such buffers that would protect them, what are some measures that you think that they can take now to protect themselves from exploitative platform design?
In one of your questions, you asked about accountability. So it's equally important, like I said earlier, people designing this product should be held accountable to some of the things they send outside for people to consume. So as a matter of priority, we should be able to make sure that product managers come together. And there is this peer review mechanism you have with the African leaders that I think was set up by Thabo Mbeki or something like that. So we could look at a situation where we are self-policing. What actually do we want? How do we want it? How can we be able to regulate the ecosystem? We can do it amongst ourselves. We can be able to set up some certain policy and say, all right, what do we need to do? And we should be able to help the market space, the government as well. We should be able to be seen contributing to regulating the space. Without that, if we eventually lose the trust of the community, I can assure you then the product we're designing and what have you will not be accepted by the people. So the trust is very key. We have to build a product that stimulates trust, a product that makes people want to believe in us. Why would people want to read BusinessDay? Why do people want to listen to the program? Because they know at the core of their decision is the fact that their interest is also protected, because they wouldn't want to send a product to the populace, something that will be injurious. That is why no matter what I'm going to be speaking about, they try to ensure balance. Do they allow me to go to extreme left or extreme right? They have to find a middle ground for me as well.
Okay, so let's
also
look
product
at
managers should be doing that.
Okay, let's look at the African scene in general. Do you think that African tech startups approach product design differently from the large global tech companies abroad, particularly around trust and community impact?
Entirely.
Okay, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? I think we've lost you, Chini, on that. Okay, let's quickly go for a short break and we'll be right back with the rest of this conversation here on Business Morning at The Breakfast Show on Business Day Television. We'll be right back.
Entrepreneurship is for everybody, but not everybody is for entrepreneurship.
They are the dreamers.
I remember it was like 3 a.m. by 21st of December 2021.
The disruptors.
Life is not affordable, let's be real.
The doers.
BusinessDay Academy has trained over 3,000 event professionals.
In a place where the odds don't play fair, they play harder.
I would like my business to be remembered as one of the homegrown organizations that has helped with shaping the narrative of this continent positively.
From first-time founders to industry giants, this is where serious business meets unexpected turns.
I could stay up hours of the night just watching like things about space.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs Lounge with Norma, where we unravel the buzz and glamorous headshots to bring you the untold.
When I went for youth service, where I was sent to, instead of me to go to work, I went to go and learn how to sew.
Raw. I'm blown away by the challenges they're facing.
And real stories of Nigeria's fearless young entrepreneurs.
And not only yes.
Watch Entrepreneurs Lounge with Norma every Tuesday on Business Day Television.
Welcome back. You're still on the Business Morning segment of the Business Day Breakfast Show. And right here, we are just having a discussion with Yochini Abida, a brilliant product manager. And we'll be jumping back into the conversation right now. So, sir, I would like to know, looking ahead, do you see the future of technology becoming more human-centered or more profit-driven?
Thank you. Welcome back. So sorry, I think the network couldn't make us to have a seamless conversation. So sorry about
No
that. I
problem
think
at
it's
all.
mine as well. I don't know. Okay. Going by your question, you're asking, looking ahead, do we see a future of technology becoming human-centered, right, or more profit-driven, right?
Yes.
Okay. I believe both forces will continue to exist. But I'm optimistic that the future will become more human-centered. Users are demanding transparency, regulators are becoming more active, investors increasingly recognize that trust is a business asset, and product leaders are having more conversation about ethics than ever before. The companies that thrive in the future will not be those that capture the most attention, but those that earn the most trust. In the long run, technology succeeds when human outcomes and business outcomes reinforce each other. While the baseline consumer experience on mass market platform will become even more ruthlessly profit-driven and automated, a premium, highly regulated market is key, most especially to the emerging market. If we want to compete with the developed market, then we have to find a balance. I always emphasize on balance. It's not all about me, it's not all about the target, it's not all about the key performance indicators, but it's all about the user satisfaction as well. So going forward, as we're designing our KPIs to product managers and the staff as well, we should be looking at structuring it around user satisfaction as well. So if we design a product that's human-centered, in the long run, it is us, it is the product that benefits at the end, the tech companies rather, sorry, that benefits at the end. So it's an ongoing conversation, it's an ongoing developmental stage that we have to keep looking and looking and looking until we are able to get to that particular moment that we have a product that is human-centered without compromising the financial viability of the tech companies.
Okay, thank you so much, Yochini Abida, for your wonderful insights and also for joining us on Business Morning this Tuesday. That will be the most we'll be touching on today's segment. We had a very wonderful time with you, and we hope to see you another time on the show. And I'm sure that our listeners as well, users and product managers, have learned one or two from this very insightful conversation. And that will be the most we'll be taking today. I am Norma Obona, and up next is Big Story.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by Business Day Television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Valentine.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Musef.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day Television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
Information is everywhere, but insights, that is rare. Business Day Premium gives you analysis, data, and context that keep you ahead. Business Day Premium. Read deeper, decide smarter.
They say money never sleeps. Wake up to clarity, insights, and the stories driving business in Nigeria and beyond.
From the heartbeat of small and medium enterprises to the pulse of national economic policy, this is where business meets perspective. With expert guests, real-time analysis, and stories that matter to you, we go beyond headlines to bring you the full picture.
Join us every morning as we break down the numbers, decode the policies, and spotlight the people shaping our economy. This is Business Money.
We are not just showing off businesses, but telling the stories behind them. The hustle, the art, the orders, and the wins.
Startup Spotlight, showing every Monday on Business Day television.
Welcome to the Triumph Against Odd podcast.
Most people go through their lives without knowing what their superpower is, right? But if you're lucky enough and determined enough to find your superpower before you get to a certain stage of your life, you will be incredibly successful.
Look, the first thing is you just decide not to look at the challenges, because if you do, it's going to end you.
The closest thing I think is that I had a deeply military background, which is a bit of a never say die background.
I saw an opportunity in non-interest banking, and I felt that the demand was there. There was pent-up demand for it. People were yearning for it, and I felt that if we did it properly, if we brought in professionalism into it, and if we brought in our experiences, our various experiences from various backgrounds into it, that it could succeed.
Very few people do that because very few people explore their superpowers. They just explore bread and butter issues. I need to eat, and
Yes, there will be challenges. This is a very difficult business environment. The government keeps working on how to make business easier.
The first problem to overcome is really just starting, right? We thought about this idea for over 2 years before we even took the first step.
You cannot ignore this country. No, and to be from here, I think is an incredible privilege. Nigeria will be ascendant in my lifetime.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by Business Day Television.
For many years, we've talked about the need to, essentially diversify our revenue stream away from, the huge dependence on oil revenues. It looks like that is happening now. So that means that we're better protected when, you have these wide fluctuations in oil prices and all of that. So it's
as you say, and I agree, that we should commend the government. At least revenues are not falling. There have been times in the past when we recorded drops in revenue. That's not the case today. We're seeing revenues actually going up.
Increasingly, we can see the developed countries focusing on renewable energy and so on and so forth, which means that in the long run, we must look for alternative sources to funding.
So the government says that crude oil theft has essentially come to an end.
We need to do more to ensure that we totally eliminate crude oil theft and start to think of how to boost production. But it's a good first step. By eliminating crude oil theft, it also creates an incentive for international oil companies to probably return and start to take up more projects in the upstream industries.
Stay ahead with Business Day Mobile, your gateway to Nigeria's most trusted business news, market insights, and expert analysis. With a Business Day Mobile app, you enjoy more than just news. You gain a seamless, intuitive platform designed to keep you informed and empowered. From exclusive articles to in-depth market trends, the app delivers the stories that matter most. Why Business Day Mobile? For premium access, for a clean, responsive design, for smarter navigation, for customizable alerts, and for all-in-one business hub. Whether you're a business leader, investor, policymaker, or enthusiast, Business Day Mobile
brings you closer to the insights shaping Nigeria's business landscape. Download today and put authoritative business journalism right at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere.
Entrepreneurship is for everybody, but not everybody is for entrepreneurship.
They are the dreamers.
I remember it was like 3 a.m. by 21st of December 2021.
The disruptors.
Life is not affordable, let's be real.
The doers.
BusinessDay Academy has trained over 3,000 event professionals.
In a place where the odds don't play fair, they play harder.
I would like my business to be remembered as one of the homegrown organizations that has helped with shaping the narrative of this continent positively.
From first-time founders to industry giants, this is where serious business meets unexpected terms.
I could stay up hours of the night just watching things about space.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs Lounge with Norma, where we unravel the buzz and glamorous headshots to bring you the untold.
When I went for youth service, where I was sent to, instead of me to go to work, I went to go and learn how to sew.
Raw. I'm blown away by the challenges they're facing.
And real stories of Nigeria's fearless young entrepreneurs.
And not only not yet.
Watch Entrepreneurs Lounge with Norma every Tuesday on BusinessDay television.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by BusinessDay Television.
And we're live from Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, bringing you the latest insight into the stories that matter for business and the economy. I am Deborah Eze.
Onyeka Balata.
I am Destiny Momo.
My name is Elizabeth Musef.
When you think of business, think no more, think Business Day.
I know that Business Day television will go places. It is the next big thing that will happen to the Nigerian media sector without a shade of doubt.
On May 22nd, 2026, Polymer Packaging Limited, in collaboration with the Lagos Recyclers Association and Switch Recycling, organized a capacity development seminar on PET bottle aggregation, quality control and management. The event brought together stakeholders, government officials and private sector players to discuss the future of Nigeria's PET recycling value chain and the importance of high-quality feedstock in driving sustainability. Delivering the opening address, President of Lagos Recyclers Association, Dr. Bakare Oluwafemi, stressed the need for stronger collaboration and improved standards within the recycling sector.
We get money, we look for space, we listen to motivational speakers, we open Instagram. Somebody on Instagram said you can become a billionaire by collecting waste, and then you just go to your work and you resign. And when you start collecting and supplying, the story changes. Today we are going to know why. Why am I not driving my G-Wagon yet? So we are going to learn a lot. So we've been given our notes. Please let us pay total attention. Let's take notes. And I have the opportunity to also say there's going to be a prize that we are going to win today. And that will come through attentiveness. How much do you know recycling? Like I said, you can't be here if you don't know at least the introductory aspect of recycling.
In his keynote address, the Managing Director of Polysmart Packaging Limited, Mr. Wasil Balogun, highlighted the growth of Nigeria's recycling industry and its contribution to economic development.
So, we have to correct an impression. What you call yourself is exactly what you are. What you call yourself is exactly what you are. And I'll try and expatiate on that. When you see recyclers, people relate it to death, dirty things. Some people will say, "Oh, I'm a recycler. I am an akole." Come on, you are not. In Nigeria today, we consume at least 1 million tons of all plastics. 1 million tons, to be very conservative anyway. At the recycling value of 500 naira per kg, that is about 500 billion naira industry. That is what you are representing. In collection, I'm not talking about processing. In collection, I'm a chartered accountant by training. I was a banker. Polysmart is the only Nigerian company investing or has the capability to produce RPET in Nigeria. In the entire African continent, we have 6 countries. We have 6 companies in the entire African continent that produce food-grade RPET. Polysmart is the only Nigerian company amongst all.
The first technical session, led by Polysmart's Group Head of Quality Assurance, Ernest Ubasineke, focused on PET quality standards, industry benchmarks, and post-consumer bottle collection.
Safer that way. You don't have to crack your head whether is this HD, is it not HD, is it PP, is it that, Very simple. Water bottle, beverage bottle. When we say beverage bottle, Coke, Fanta, Mirinda, Pepsi, all those ones are okay. And what colors do we want? Clear and light blue, because there are beverage bottles that are colored, like your malt drink is colored. So there are a lot of beverage bottles, both carbonated and non-carbonated, that are colored. For us in Polysmart, our focus is clear and light blue. Clear and light blue, clear or transparent. I will show you images. And to a very large extent, my presentation has a lot of visuals. Okay? Visuals because we are collectors. People who are collecting, they might not be so educated to know a lot of things. It's easier for them to see and pick. So that is why there's a lot of visuals here. And also, finally, we're looking at how do we collaborate to advise us on what is the best quality when you supply and how we can accept your product. Next slide.
Speaking during the second session, Special Assistant on One Health at the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, Dr. Femi Idowu Adegoke, spoke on aggregation best practices and effective waste stream management within Lagos recycling ecosystem.
They come with that mindset that they are coming to make money. And then when they get there, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 1 year, 2 years, the money is where in this place. There's no way for these jokers. You understand? So, but now we need to understand how to make that world. The part that we need to play in that quality assurance that Polysmart and the likes require for us to have that maximum wealth or profitability. So, next slide. So, like I said, aggregation is the business, not just collection. Don't just see yourself as a collector. See that collection process you're doing as a business. And if you're seeing it as a business, you do what businesses do. What do businesses do? Businesses plan ahead, businesses improve, businesses add quality, add value to what they're doing, and they get profit at the end of it.
4 young participants received grant of 500,000 naira each to support their involvement in the sector.
From us, we have 500,000 naira, but we do differently, and it will be 500,000 naira to each one of them.
Participants later engaged in a workshop session where they were given tutorials on recycling workspace, equipment operation, and also participated in groups on PET bill management, pricing disputes, and quality assurance.
Of contamination topside, we have organic, we have sand. All these will come into this thermal screen. The material go out because the bottles will shake the bottles like that, and all the organic go along. All the reject go alone, and the bottle approximately clean from outside, go to the label remover. Washing line and the hot wash line to transform the flakes to go food grade. How food grade? We have chemicals like caustic soda, will wash with detergent. So all this material will washed again.
Experts say tackling contamination and improving quality control remain key to building a more sustainable pet recycling industry in Nigeria. Amanda Imosigure, Business Day Television.
Intentional conversations and an atmosphere centered on emotional wellness sets the tone at the launch of the Safe Space Journal, organized by the Glory Lucas Foundation in Lagos. The event, themed Unmuted Expression, Identity and Dreams, brought together students, educators, mental health professionals, policymakers, and advocates to explore the importance of emotional expression, inclusion, and safe spaces for young Nigerians. Organizers say the journal was created to encourage emotional awareness, self-expression, and healthier conversations around mental well-being among teenagers. Developed with support from psychologists and educators, the initiative targets young people between the ages of 10 and 17, using guided reflection and creative expression as tools for emotional support and personal growth.
I think that for us, it has just been a very important project. It's actually been 1 year and 6 months in the making. So from January last year that we've been working on this. And for us, we want to give the users, mostly students, because the journals are for ages 10 to 17 primarily. They were designed for them in mind, to give them a safe space, as it's called, just a little home where they can express themselves, where they can look into their inner thoughts. So it's not just for emotions, it's also for dreams. You know, what do you want to dream? Just be your unbridled, most realistic self, because we found out, like I said, also this is a very research heavy project. We actually spent 5 months working on a sample base of over 500 teenagers in Lagos State, and we wanted to just give them a tool to just express themselves.
Beyond conversations around mental health, the event also celebrated identity, creativity, and inclusion through spoken word performances and cultural presentations by students from participating schools. Stakeholders at the event stressed that emotional well-being must become part of broader conversations around education, youth development, and social support systems.
Currently, we're making progress with mental health. However, the problems are still there. They are imminent. But we need spaces like this foundation, Glory Lucas Foundation, safe spaces, and other resources that we can gather to help salvage the situation, to continually help salvage the situation. It wasn't as it was worse than it is right now, because there were times that children, young people have no space, they have nobody to speak to. Mental health was stigmatized, but however, these days, the awareness is out, the sensitization is out. People know that it's okay not to be okay.
I think it's a very important synergy, right, to sort of like find, because I'm a chess player and we're teaching children to become chess champions. So in many ways, chess is very deeply psychological. So it requires a lot of thinking. But then beyond the thinking about the game in itself, you need to be in the right frame of mind to be able to make the best moves and make the best plan. And this is even more significant for children because, for adults, there's a lot more awareness about their mental health and well-being. But forget that for children, it's even so much more important because they're still in their formative years and are so much more deeply affected by the change that they're experiencing.
Government representatives at the event also emphasized the importance of creating safer and more inclusive environments for young people to express themselves and access emotional support. Stakeholders say stronger collaboration between government institutions, schools, and mental health advocates will be critical in addressing the growing emotional and psychological pressures facing young Nigerians.
Thank you. Again, thank you for taking time out of no time to be here. It means a lot to each and every one of us, especially Expensive and her team. So for me, it's very profound to acknowledge each and every one of you. Expensive, you and your entire team, well done. I'm proud of you. That's why I'm here. I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't turn up this morning. She's one of my mentees. I am the Commissioner for Youth and Social Development here in Lagos. And of course, what that means is every young person from the age of officially 15 to 35, of course, younger, I am responsible, for all your policies, for all your programs, for all your well-being, so when I'm invited to important, programs like this, I also find time out of no time to make sure I turn up so that few things can happen. One, you get to see your commissioner. Do you know me before today? And you have a commissioner that you don't know. It's an opportunity for you to see your commissioner to say, okay, that is the person sitting in the government for us.
Discussion during the panel session focused on expression, identity, and the importance of building environments where young people feel safe expressing themselves without fear of stigma or judgment.
We have a lot, but from the little we had, my parents were always willing to share. So for me, it ingrained that value system in my head that the reason why we have is so we can give others. But now you can, and I promise you, this is the most important thing that you ever learn about yourself. And maybe as you grow older, whatever talent you have a real opportunity to use it to help others.
Most times, the one thing I would expect in terms of results may not be exactly what we're getting that time, but it doesn't mean we should stop, right? Maybe we have to change our approach, maybe we have to change the direction. We have to always ensure outcomes of situations don't really define us. It just makes us know we can go back and work on it again.
He had. And another thing he said, which is about you have to commit, consistency. Discipline is doing the thing that you're meant to do when you don't want to do it. You just keep doing it. Discipline, consistency.
Participants also highlighted the need for increased awareness, emotional education, and accessible support systems within schools and communities.
So I believe they need a place where they can see as an Harvard, where they can also explore, express, bring out their thoughts, good, bad, ugly, where they can bring it out, where they can exhaust some stress, And I believe this program will really help these children with the book. We also help these children see this as an Harvard, and then help us know how the child gets better, how the child gets a progress.
The official unveiling of the Safe Space Journal marked a major milestone for the Glory Lucas Foundation, which says it plans to expand access to emotional wellness tools for young people across Nigeria. Organizers say the long-term goal is not only to raise awareness around mental health, but to build practical and accessible support systems capable of helping young Nigerians navigate emotional and social challenges more confidently. And advocates say creating safe emotional spaces for young people will require sustained investment, awareness, and stronger support system both within schools and across communities.
Countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Big smile. Safe space, everyone.
Deborah Eze, Business Day Television.
A few days after Nigeria marks Democracy Day on June 12th, the conversation continues around the state of the nation's democracy. While the country has sustained democratic rule for over 2 decades, concerns remain about governance, electoral integrity, internal party democracy, and growing disputes arising from party primaries. Recent complaints by aspirants across political parties, including allegations of irregularities and the substitution of candidates who emerged from primary elections, have once again raised questions about how democratic Nigeria's political process truly is. Well, this is the big story this morning, and joining me to discuss this conversation is Damian Ajayi, as a public affairs analyst. Thank you for joining us on the big story, Damian. Hello, Damian. Do we have you? Damian, if you could please unmute your microphone so we can hear you. Damian? Right, we'll go on a quick break and we'll be right back now for the big story. Do stay with us. Welcome back. This is still the big story right here on Business Day Television. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Before we went on the break, I was speaking to our public affairs analyst who is joining us this morning. Damian Ajayi joins us here in Lagos, is joining us virtually. Thank you for joining the show, Damian.
Good morning. Good morning,
Right.
Lizzie.
Good morning and happy Democracy Day in Areas, if there's anything like that. But let's talk about the Democracy Day now that celebrations are over. What would you say that Nigerians should be reflecting on about the state of the country's democracy?
Well, I can hardly hear you, but then I think if you can hear me, can you hear me?
I can hear you crystal clear.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want me to take my question
Day
again?
in Areas.
Hello,
Happy
Damian.
Democracy Day in Areas. Yeah, I can hear you.
Carry on, carry on.
Yeah, I can hear you. Good morning once again. Happy Democracy Day in Areas. Well, democracy, in my own humble opinion, is an ideal. It's not a destination. It's a journey, and I think that for us in Nigeria, we have something substantial to celebrate, considering the fact that this is the longest democratic dispensation we've had since 1999, unbroken transition of power. I think it means a lot for us, considering our political history. I think it means a lot for us, and as we continue on this journey, we have so much also to learn, so much also to put in place, and also so much also to ponder on. And I think as we do this, we can be better at it. We can meet the expectation of millions of Nigerians who are looking up to our leaders for democratic gains and development.
Right, and it's 27 years after the return to democratic rule. Would you say that Nigeria's democracy is maturing, or are we merely enduring?
Well, it depends on what you mean by maturing and enduring, but definitely it's safe to say that we are not where we used to be. If you look at the fall of the First Republic between 1963 and 1966, we look at the fall of the Second Republic between 1979 and 1983, and we look at the aborted Third Republic in 1993, and the Fourth Republic, we started 1999, upon which we have been using 27 years now, still counting. I think that we are maturing. Yes, we have rooms to do more. There are, the tenets of democracy, inclusivity, inclusiveness, representation, free and fair elections, freedom of the press, protection of rights. Yes, we've grown. We've grown. We're getting better than we used to be. Our legal system in respect to protection of human rights is getting better compared than it used to be, and some areas, but definitely it's not safe to say that we do not have a lot, to do, because we necessarily have a lot to do when you compare it with harassment, intimidation by the executives, especially the civic society, press freedom, and all those things. We have so much to do, but then I think we have grown in terms of election, in terms of protection of fundamental rights. As a shine in the Constitution, I think we're better than we were in 1979 in the Third Republic.
So in a nutshell, you'd say that Nigeria's democracy is maturing. But now let's talk about the political parties, because many people would argue that democracy actually begins within these political parties. So how would you assess the state of internal party democracy in Nigeria today?
Wow. Well, also, I would say that it's evolving. Elections, but whether pre-election and post-election matters, there are still things we have not really grappled with substantially in respect to efficiency and development. But then we are better than we used to be. If you look at the Electoral Act and how it has developed over the years, we cannot but agree that there have been changes that have been introduced. Innovative innovations to help political parties, regulate themselves better. In this 2026 amended, in this 2026 Act, we see introductions, we see how provisions are made in Section 29, Section 31, in respect of vote buying. So, we are not there yet. We also see provisions in the constitutions. I think Section 156, in respect to political parties and INEC officials. We also see provisions in respect to inter-government council. So, there are a lot to be done. But then we are better than we used to be, definitely. But there are lots to be done. In respect to internal affairs of political parties, I think that also, in respect to that, the court is giving more powers to parties to conduct their affairs, but then within their own space, within their own constitution and guidelines. And I think to a large extent, we can see that more power is going to the political parties to regulate themselves, except in very, very few occasions where they do not comply with their own constitutions at time and guidelines.
Right, and we've continued to see recurring complaints from aspirants over party primaries, including allegations of irregularities and the substitution of names. Why would you say that this remains a persistent issue in our politics?
Well, it's really sad because free and fair elections go to the core of democratic values and principles, because democracy is about inclusiveness, representation, it's about equality, justice, it's about a free and fair society, and election is very key, in attaining those ideals. So, in respect to the primaries, conducted by various parties this recent times, all of them have had one issues or the other in respect to their primaries and the conduct of the primaries, whether it's in NDC, where in Imo State, people like Dr. Uche was complaining about irregularities, or in FCT Abuja, where people like Aisha Yusufu in the NDC was complaining. We also have that also in APC, where you have people complaining about irregularities. You have in places like Kirby, where you have Professor Issa Pantami, and in Bauchi, where you have the former foreign minister complaining about irregularities in the primaries. Even coming home to Lagos, we saw how protests, protest upon protest came about, at the state secretariat, complaining about that the winners were substituted for other people. If you look at Agege, for instance, where there was a publication about people winning the primaries in Agege 01 and in Agege 02, and they were substituted, for other candidates. I think this is alarming. This is worrisome. And I think that as we move forward, we should also look at how INEC, can be empowered, not just to be an observer, but also to take very more active role in party primaries, especially when it involves declaration of winner, being returned, elections. I think that will help a lot. But generally, whether it's the ADC, whether it's the NDC, whether it's APC, there have been complaints about substitution, irregularities in primaries, and all that. I believe there are provisions in their various constitutions to handle these conflicts, and I believe that until we begin to see the list that is sent to INEC, we believe that they will find a way to resolve these conflicts.
Now, in a case where aspirants claim that they won primaries but their names were later replaced, what does this do to public confidence?
It erodes public confidence, definitely. It does not encourage popular participation in the political space. It is undemocratic to do so. But then I think that the constitutions of most parties have provisions for appeals, have provisions for conflict resolution, have provisions to handle these issues. But then definitely it erodes public confidence. It discourages popular participation in our democratic process, which is not good.
Right. Do we still have you, Damien? Okay, carry on.
Yeah. Just like I said, election is part of the democratic process because it's a way of establishing the will of the people, and the whole concept of democracy is about popular representation, the will of the people. So I think that when substitutions like this take place in this manner, where the winners are substituted, in a very undemocratic and unlawful manner, I think it's not good for our democracy.
And should we be seeing tougher consequences, right? For parties found to have violated their own guidelines? Should we be seeing tougher consequences?
I believe the provision of Section 88 now of the Electoral Act as amended takes good care of that, because ultimately the court is there for the resolution of all civil rights and obligations between parties. So it's clear there that notwithstanding anything in the electoral aspirants who feel that parties have not complied with the electoral act or the party constitution or the party guideline can approach the Federal High Court for redress. But like I said also, in addition, moving forward also, I think that INEC should be empowered with specific and direct roles in, regulating, sanctioning, and, penalizing political parties who violate, express provisions in their constitutions.
Right, and let me ask you, let's go beyond politics now, and the elections and politics itself. Let's talk about how well democracy has been able to deliver on its promises of accountability and good governance for Nigerians. How would you rate our democracy so far? Has democracy been able to deliver on its promises?
Well, it has been able to deliver on some. It has been able to deliver on some, honestly, and it has not been able to deliver on others. But then, like I said initially, democracy is an ideal, and these core ideals are equity, freedom, justice, freedom of the press, the protection of rights, and we honestly, I can't say that we have not developed in certain areas, but also we are falling short in certain areas. We still have, people like Daniel Ojoku, Felix. We still have journalists, being harassed, being detained, and all that. So I think it's a serious matter. But beyond that is also the court system. We can say that, okay, if you look at the judicial orders, salaries and allowances passed in 2024, increasing the welfare of the judiciary, the police, act, and all these things, we can see that these are institutions that have been empowered, to strengthen our democracy. Yes, that's why I said in some areas, we are better than we used to be, and in some areas we are better than we used to be, and also in the area of fundamental rights, enforcement of fundamental rights, I believe we are better than we used to be. If you look at the pronouncement that have been coming from the courts in giving a broader interpretation to the provisions of Section 46 of the Constitution and Chapter 4 of the Constitution, and the fundamental rights enforcement procedural rules. So when we look at all these things, we say, okay, freedom of rights, protection of rights, press freedom, equality, justice are part of the democratic ideals. So in some respect, we've done well. In some respect, we've not done well.
Right.
Yes. There's so much to grapple with, especially insecurity, which is a serious problem, to our democracy as it is, because you can have, you cannot develop in the democratic space where there is insecurity, where there's insecurity, where the protection of lives and properties are in jeopardy. So I think this present day, that is the danger, the most potent danger to our democracy.
My final question for you, Damien, will be really on what lessons democratic institutions and political parties can take away from the controversies we've seen so far, especially as our attention is now being drawn to the next election cycle. What lessons can we learn?
Well, we can learn so much within, I mean, from our own political history, and we can also learn, in comparative study. If you look at, countries where democracy is very, very strong, like Norway, like Sweden, like Denmark. I mean, if we come to Africa, like Mauritius, Ghana, we have people to compare ourselves with and see how they've done better and lessons we can learn. But for me, most importantly, I would say that we should be. The 27 years of democracy has led to stability, political stability to a large extent, if you compare to the First Republic, Second Republic, and the Third Republic, and we should not take that for granted. And we should also know that both the First Republic and the Second Republic were truncated by military coup, because the First Republic fell because of, the consequences, the effect of the 1964 elections. So also the Second Republic fell because of the 1983 elections. So, and that is very important. For the fact that we are able to hold 27 years of broken.
And Damien, I think my question is precisely from the controversies we've seen so far.
What controversies, actually?
Right, the controversies within political parties, the defections here and there, and all of that. So, what can we learn?
We should not. I mean, the lessons we should learn is to not do anything that will undermine political stability, public safety, and our democratic institution. Because at the end of the day, there must be a country before there will be an election. So if we look at our political history, we see that we are still torn apart by ethno-religious, we are still torn apart by insecurity, nepotism, corruption, and all these things. So the lessons for me now is for the elites and for the people of Nigeria not to take this democracy for granted, knowing that we do not have any other alternative but to work on it, to build on it, and to grow on it.
Right. Thank you very much, Damian Ajayi, Public Affairs Analyst, for joining us this morning on The Big Story. Thank you for your insight. Well, that's where we'll leave it this morning on The Big Story. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Until tomorrow, do stay with us.
Pleasure of welcoming great supporters and friends from INMA. He's the president, and then of course L. Wilkinson, and then Doreen is heading the work in Africa.
Honored that you're hosting us today. We look forward to a positive exchange of ideas and strategies to make our industry better. With me is Al Wilkinson. He's President and Executive Director of International News Media Association, all the way from Ghana. And we're happy to have him here. I'll let him tell you guys more about him and why he's here.
I would leave you with the idea about Business Day. No platform can take it. No AI can replicate it. No competitor and buy it. So here's a little advice: defend it, build it, invest in it, because folks, the decade ahead is going to belong to news organizations that are unmistakably themselves. They're not boring, they're not neutral. Who are you? Answer that question and you'll figure out the next one. Thanks a lot.
As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information, call Uchenna on 0809 645 3535 or Shegun on 0812 024 3167 or Daniel on 0802 756 4653. This is not just a conference. It's where conversations become decisions that shape the future of business. As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information, call Uchenna on 0809 645 3535 or Shegun on 0812 024 3167 or Daniel on 0802 756 4653. This is not just a conference. It's where conversations become decisions that shape the future of business.
We're bringing it to you on your seat. Welcome to the social listening segment where we bring you the stories, debate, and moments generating conversations across social media. I am Deborah Eze. Now let's get into what's making waves online. And of course, our first stop, we're going to begin with security concerns dominating national conversations with the latest violence which happened in Kebbi State as suspected terrorists killed 20 villagers in Lakurawa community, with several others sustaining injury and residents fleeing for fear of their lives. The attack highlights the persistent security challenges facing northwestern Nigeria. And beyond the tragic loss of lives, continued insecurity threaten farming activities and the safety of communities across the region. Serving as another reminder that in several parts of the country, daily life is still negotiated under fear, and Nigerians on social media are expressing concerns. Let's take a look at how netizens are expressing themselves with this development. Now, the first reaction from Cole Richard, and he said, this is the 81% improvement in Tinubu's security achievement. And another reaction from Omar Becky, and she said, Republic of Bad News. Another reaction from Paul Davier, Nigeria. Quite short, but that actually carries a lot of words. And the final reaction for that story from Baba Josie, and he said, now today this one happened again, Tinubu must go. Now, it's actually very sad that every time news of another deadly attack breaks, the number seems to be bigger while the outrage actually gets smaller, because people, I don't want to say people are getting used to it, but you know, when you open your phone and then you see that the news from yesterday is quite different from the one for today, the outrage just automatically and naturally becomes smaller. And that is a very dangerous place for any country to be, if you ask me. 25 lives are not just statistics, they are families shattered, communities traumatized, and the livelihoods of these people are being destroyed. And Nigerians want to see, I think all Nigerians are asking for is to see more condolences after these attacks. They want evidence that, you know, our lives are being protected. And the real question from all of this is, how many more communities must suffer before security gains become something people can actually feel on the ground, which is actually a very, very sad situation. But now let's move to the second conversation on the social listening this morning, which is still, sadly, still on insecurity, as it is 1 month after the attack on schools in Oyo State, and the students and teachers are yet to gain their freedom. And this incident triggered protests by parents, teachers, various civil society groups, and even the recruitment of 1,000 forest guards, and ordered the deployment of a special rescue team to secure the release of the victims by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And we have a video of one of the families of the victim. Let's take a look at the video.
Tí àwọn ajínigbé gbé ní May 15 ní àwòrán ẹ̀ṣẹ́lẹ̀ lọ́kọ mi ti ń ṣiṣẹ́ tí wọ́n fi lọ gbé wọn. Ẹ dákun, mò ń bẹ̀ yín ní ẹ̀yin ìjọba, Gọ́fúnà Ṣèyí Mákindé, àmọ̀gbẹ́ ń ṣiṣẹ́, ṣùgbọ́n ẹ jẹ́ ká ríṣẹ́ yín, èmi nìkan àtàwọn ọmọ nínú ilé láti látọ̀hún títí di ìsìn oṣù kan ti pé lónìí. Ẹ dákun ẹ ṣàánú wa, ẹ dákun ẹ ṣàánú wa, ẹ já àwọn ọmọ ajá àwọn ọkọ wa jáde. Ẹ dákun ẹ ṣàánú wa, ó ti ń pẹ́. Ẹ ṣàánú wa, bàbá Ṣọ̀ún, ẹ dákun ẹ ṣàánú wa, ẹ bá sọ fún gọ́fúnà wa ìtàwọn èèyàn yìí bá fẹ́ kán fún un. Ó ti ń pẹ́, ẹ ṣàánú wa. Àwọn fa ọmọ kéékèèké sílé mi nìkan àtàwọn ọmọ inú ilé, ẹ ṣàánú mi. Ó ti ń pẹ́, ẹ dákun ẹ ṣàánú wa. Àmọ́ tán jà, àmọ́ kan tí wọ́n fún wọn nú igbó tí wọ́n wà. Òtútù pọ̀, òjò ń rọ̀.
Concern is how long is actually too long. But let's take a look at some of the tweets that netizens put out there concerning this situation. And the first tweet is from ex-political analyst, and he said Adelabo didn't need to beg before the sent special squad from Abuja to rescue his family. Tinubu, I spit for your face. Another reaction from DG Cried, and he said, get help somewhere else. That black old woman named Tinubu is not willing to do that at all. Another reaction from Nova Play, and he said, a pity the World Cup has distracted us from the reality. Nigerians move on so easily. The first reaction, I must really say that the anger is very, very, very understandable, because when a kidnapping actually drags on for weeks, it leaves families trapped in fear and uncertainty. I'm very sure from the video that we watched, we can hear the fear in the wife of the kidnapped victim. You can hear the fear in her voice. And beyond that emotional pain, it also reinforces, you know, a growing public concern about security. It also, you know,
what Nigerians are demanding is just updates. They don't just give us updates as to what is happening. What we want is accountability. We want transparency and also want to see results. I must say that no family should have to mark 1 month anniversary of a kidnapping without, clear answers. And we really hope that this cries from the family of the victims would get to the right channel, the right government channel, and they get to swing into action and bring together the family of the victim with their family. But let's move on from the issue of insecurity and move on to the final conversation this morning on the social listening, which is Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, has appointed his daughters, Fatima, Maria, and Alima Dangote, to key executive positions across the Dangote Group as part of the succession and expansion plans. Fatima will lead commercial operations in the oil and gas business, and Maria will head commercial operations for the cement and food businesses, while Alima will oversee the family office and international operations. Now, the appointment has stirred conversations online, with many users pointing to the development and arguing the importance of gender in succession and inheritance. Let's take a look at how netizens are reacting to this. Now, the first reaction from Ari Kripes, and Ari Kripes said, no woman has grown a company to worth $1 trillion US, not one. All the women divorced on Forbes lists could not increase those wealth. Now that's sounding like 8 right now. Another one from King Rio Webb, and he said, sir, it's their father's company. It is their father's company. Another reaction reads, the most laughable situation is that most people that talk about looking for a male child to carry on their legacy don't even have legacy. Their name doesn't open doors. I'm going to take that again. The most laughable situation is that most people that talk about looking for a male child to carry on their legacy don't even have legacy. Their name doesn't even open doors. And it's actually really sad that in big 2026, we are actually still having conversation about gender and succession. I find it very, very appalling to see the tweets from netizens. And I cannot but agree with the last tweet. If we can have the last tweet up again. I cannot agree with the last tweets that actually said this is actually a very laughable situation, because really the people who actually complain about this really don't even have any legacy for their unborn children to actually move on with. So in this 2026, we should actually stop having conversations about whether a girl should take over a family business or not, because the real question should be, are they qualified? Are they qualified? If this girls are qualified, why then should you bring up the fact that they are actually girls and they should be in their husband's house? Family businesses around the world actually prepare people for the next generation of leadership, and what actually matters is competence and the governance around the organization, and also the results, not just the family name attached to the appointment. And we shouldn't be crying more than the bereaved actually in this situation. Aliko Dangote has seen his daughters fit to step into the shoes of the various positions that he actually gave to them, and that is what it should be. On my final note, looking at the public reaction to these stories, what they reveal about the Nigerian current concerns are security and accountability still outweigh economic and business issues in the national conversation. I think the security issue should be our focal points right now, and not discussions about succession and who and gender and who should take over their father's legacy. Anyways, these are the stories making the waves across social media in Nigeria today. Thank you for watching Social Listening. I am Deborah Eze. Do have yourself a beautiful morning.
BusinessDay Media hosted the 2026 edition of its manufacturing conference on the 26th of May in Lagos. Themed Manufacturing Nigeria's Future, Jobs, Competitiveness, and Industrial Prosperity, the conference brought together key stakeholders across government, manufacturing, trade, and investment sectors to discuss the future of Nigeria's industrial growth. The event commenced with opening remarks by the Deputy Editor-in-Chief of BusinessDay Media, Innocent Una, highlighting the importance of manufacturing to Nigeria's economic diversification, job creation, and industrial development agenda.
The government is looking towards value addition. So in Nigeria export ecosystem, over the time, the government is looking at what we can get from what we have in Nigeria. So it's an opportunity for a number of people to also increase their capacity, and this requires a lot of infrastructure availability and also a lot of other incentives that will empower exporters to do more.
Delivering the keynote address, President and Chairman of Council of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Leye Kupoluyi, represented by Kola Aderibigbe, emphasized the need for stronger collaboration between policymakers and the private sector to improve Nigeria's manufacturing competitiveness. The conference progressed with panel discussions featuring industry leaders, trade experts, policymakers, and business executives who examined challenges affecting manufacturers, including infrastructure deficits, foreign exchange volatility, energy costs, and access to finance.
The entire competitiveness as a country, Nigeria, and as a state hinges on the gross domestic product and the competitiveness of our economy. And it also hinges on the shared prosperity as well as a whole for the people across the nation. So I think it's incredibly important, which is why I'm here. And I was delighted to share the fact that under the leadership of Mr. Governor Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, the Executive Governor of Lagos State, we recently launched the Lagos State Industrial Policy 2025 to 2030. And with that launch, it was incredibly important to drive all those pillars that I just mentioned to you. And we're also ensuring that partnering with the private sector is a critical component and a critical success factor to achieving the outcomes that we've outlined in that policy. And so that's also why we're here today. And I really look forward to continuing to partner with you. And I say, well done, BusinessDay, as always. Good partners, and we look forward to continuing to partner with you in Lagos State Government. Thank you.
Speakers also explored opportunities for innovation, local production, and export expansion. Speakers at the event further stressed the importance of creating policies that support industrial growth, encourage investment, and position Nigerian manufacturers to compete effectively in regional and global markets. Moderated sessions also gave participants the opportunity to engage panelists directly, ask questions, and contribute perspectives on the future of Nigeria's manufacturing sector.
Currently, Nigeria, we have absolutely nothing to write home about when it comes to the power generation. Currently, we are generating not more than 5,000 megawatts, and the transmission and distribution company are not doing enough. So I think the policy should be centered on how to ensure that the manufacturing sectors enjoy electricity, especially in concentrated areas where manufacturing sector are expected to, localize or build their infrastructure. So those zones are supposed to be enjoying at least stable electricity.
A major highlight of the conference was the emphasis on collaboration between government and the private sector, as stakeholders called for practical solutions to drive industrial prosperity and sustainable economic growth. Some of the speakers and participants also shared insights on the current realities within the sector and the expectations of Nigeria's manufacturing industry moving forward.
One of the fiscal policy
that has been enacted recently is to try to see how the tax will be able to be compiled in one section, to be able to see how the states and the federal level to bring up a particular body to be able to administer the tax, and that is to mitigate multiple taxation in Nigerian economy, and which will help to ease business on the long run.
Norma Obona, reporting for Business Day Television.
Hello and welcome to BD Special. Today I'm being joined by a woman using advocacy, creativity and policy to reshape conversations around mental health in Nigeria. My guest today is Expensive Lucas, a mental health advocate and executive director of the Glory Lucas Foundation, a nonprofit focused on improving child and youth mental health through art, education and systemic reforms. With experience spanning international relations, business development, and multi-stakeholder partnerships across Nigeria and the United States. She's also a visual artist, policy enthusiast, consultant, and advisor committed to building stronger communities through culture and social impact initiatives.
Right now in Nigeria, we have a dichotomy. There's a lot of information on mental health. It's like mass consumption. Everyone says something related to mental health, but there's not a lot of substance to it.
Right.
So mental health is such an overused term, but no one truly understands the depth. And so I'd say for young people, because we have commodified or over-commodified the use of mental health in just everyday work for little things that are most times not even relating to the entire subject. Kids see that, or teenagers and young people see that as something bad, something terrible. And so they're in a constant state of, I don't want to be associated to that tag. I don't want to be a part of the people that have this mental health problem. So people won't look at me and think, oh, I have a mental health crisis. So there's just not a lot of substance to it. And it's a much deeper reality than we can fathom, because there's millions of young people. In fact, there was a study recently that 1 in 5, teenager, young person in Nigeria is struggling, with a mental health crisis. And this is old research, not very
recent.
Yeah. So imagine how much worse it is now, and imagine how much deeper this problem goes.
Right. Let's bring it back to the Nigerian home.
Yeah.
When we talk, let me say the African home,
Yes.
because it's not just the Nigerian thing.
Yeah.
So we understand that mental health is still very much understood.
Yes.
And that's because now, everyone uses, oh, my mental health is
Yeah,
my mental health is. So what role do you think families and the communities can play in having to support, or in supporting or worsening the crisis?
I would first of all go with how families worsen the crisis. A while back, sometime last year, I was talking to a 10-year-old. She was talking to one of the leaders, the psychologists in the class. We had a session with them. Then after, she was talking to our team members and she was crying. And we go to meet her, like, oh, why are you crying? And she says she could relate so much to what they spoke about. I think it was on PTSD or something along that line. So she could relate so much to it. And then, we go deep, try to understand what's going on. And then the first thing you ask them, this kid says, have you spoken to an adult, a trusted adult? And most times they will say no, because they're scared. But she was such a very bright young lady. And she said, yes, I've spoken to my mom. And then we asked her, what did your mom say? She was like, her mom said she was being dramatic, that she should get out. And many of these kids have the same problem. When we hear young people going through some sort of struggle, we think, you're so young, there's nothing that could have happened to you in life. Like, you haven't seen life. What is wrong with you? You just go and fix it. And then we just condition them to not express themselves. And we forget that because they're so young, like 10 to 17, those are like the most formative years of an individual's lives. In fact, the World Bank, was the UNICEF, that called it the second window of opportunity, 10 to 19. We forget that the things that we tell them, the way that we put situations to them, shapes how they perceive it. And that's how we're worsening the crisis. Now, how can we make it better? Maybe if we took them more seriously, maybe if we as adults, parents, took a responsibility to care emotionally about care about the emotional state, the mental state of our young people, we would probably be helping solve the crisis. I think it's something that as adults we owe young people.
What about the schools? Do you think the school is actually doing enough when it comes to the well-being of these children and to support the students? Do you think the system, our educational system, is doing enough?
I think there's a lot more work that we can do.
Okay.
I think that, decent baseline, but in operation, in sustainability, there's a lot more work that we can do as the schools, the educational system. There's a lot more work we can do in the mental health and emotional part of education.
Right.
There's a lot more work.
Now let's take it to social media. I believe that is where the most actually happens, because most people now. It's no, in my opinion, it's no longer the community that actually shape how a person sees themselves. It's now social media.
Yeah, definitely.
So do you think it's helping, the whole mental health awareness, or it's contributing more pressure and anxiety?
So social media is a double-edged sword.
Right.
It could be a very great tool to, create awareness. I mean, we have a huge social media page. We're always online. We want to, because kids have, young people, teenagers, everyone has access to social media some way or the other. And so it's a good tool for that. But it is also worsening the problem because there's so much overconsumption and there's so much access to different unfiltered kinds of information and imageries that just shapes how users, young people, perceive themselves. They see things online, they feed up what they see online, and it just worsens the general problem. So I like to think that we're going to have, we're going to have to get to a middle point where there's some sort of control for young people. Like I'm talking really young teenagers with how they consume social media, and maybe that way we can limit the negative side effects that it has on their minds and their self-image and mental health and all of that.
But most people actually relate to testimonies. Let me put it that way. So I want you to walk us through your whole, advocacy. What has been the most emotional, eye-opening, experience for you in all of this?
The most eye-opening experience. I would go back to the young lady I was talking about.
Right.
What I did not mention when I was telling you about, how we found her was she had looked us in the eye and said that she wanted to kill herself. She was 10 years old.
And she understood.
And the scariest part of it, or rather the saddest part of it, was she said, but she didn't know how to. So for a 10-year-old to tell you that, this very bright young lady, they wanted to kill themselves. I think that was the moment that I realized that we have a much deeper problem and much deeper work to do.
Right.
And I was like, we have to keep going. There's so many young people. I mean, she was able to get a safe space in us. We're able to just get her back, reintegrate her, help her. But what about the other young people that don't have this access?
Right. So for the other people who don't, have access to having to speak to you one-on-one, and they're actually battling anxiety, depression, or emotional struggle, how can they seek help? And what can you say to them to actually make them know that they're not alone, and they have people like you advocating for them and rooting for them?
I want to say that the scariest thing about struggling with your mental health is feeling alienated, feeling like it's just you. And I say this as someone that has struggled with her own mental health for quite a while. One thing I do have to say to people, that one thing I want them to know deep in their minds is it's not a one-man struggle. There's so many people out there probably going through the same thing that you're going through. and seeking for help, reaching out to someone, telling a friend, telling just someone close to you isn't something you should be ashamed of. It's not something that you should consider weak. It's not weak to struggle with your mental health. It's like having a headache. We all have headaches. We have headaches and we go and get paracetamol. So why can you not feel sad or depressed and want to seek help? You're going to talk to someone. That's your paracetamol. It's not weak to want to seek for help. So I think that's one thing I want to say to that.
Thank you so much, Expensive Lucas. And I must say, your name, you actually look like your name, Expensive Lucas. It was really good to have you. Really special.
It was really nice. And I think one thing I want to add is just more context on a project that we're launching.
Right.
And I think that I wanted to share that to just everyone that would probably read this or listen to this. So when we started, a core part of, like you already know, institutional reforms and just something systemic, we started working on a project, a journal project, to integrate journaling to kids and students in secondary schools to see how that would impact their emotional literacy and how they express themselves. So we spent 5 months working with a sample base of over 400 kids across Lagos State, introducing just plain blank journals to them, and then studying just the reception, just baseline, post-impact, how that has reflected in their communications with teachers and students. And from that research base, we took our flaws and we found that it was helpful. Like a lot of the kids that we had to help came from this whole sample. And we created an interactive journal. It's called The Safe Space. And we are putting that, to the world. And we want to give that to as many kids as possible, over 500,000. We're actually looking on an institutional plan with the Lagos State government and just extending across Nigeria and even West Africa, because it's a very culturally relevant project. And I just want people to look forward to that, because I am very excited for it. And I think everyone that has seen it also across the country, the continent, we actually had a team of external reviewers from Yale, Duke, just review the project, and they're excited, and I want everyone to look forward to it.
We are also excited here at Business Day. We're really excited. Thank you so much, Expensive Lucas. Thank you for your time.
It was so nice talking to you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Information is everywhere, but insights, that is rare. Business Day Premium gives you analysis, data, and context that keep you ahead. Business Day Premium. Read deeper, decide smarter.
They say money never sleeps. Wake up to clarity, insights, and the stories driving business in Nigeria and beyond.
From the heartbeat of small and medium enterprises to the pulse of national economic policy, this is where business meets perspective. With expert guests, real-time analysis, and stories that matter to you, we go beyond headlines to bring you the full picture.
Join us every morning as we break down the numbers, decode the policies, and spotlight the people shaping our economy. This is Business Money.
We are not just showing off businesses, but telling the stories behind them. The hustle, the art, the orders, and the wins.
Startup Spotlight, showing every Monday on Business Day Television.
Welcome to the Triumph Against Odd podcast.
Most people go through their lives without knowing what their superpower is, right? But if you're lucky enough and determined enough to find your superpower before you get to a certain stage of your life, you'll be incredibly successful.
Look, the first thing is you just decide not to look at the challenges, because if you do, it's going to end you.
The closest thing I think is that I had a deeply military background, which is a bit of a never say die background.
I saw an opportunity in non-interest banking, and I felt that the demand was there. There was pent-up demand for it. People were yearning for it, and I felt that if we did it properly, if we brought in professionalism into it, and if we brought in our experiences, our various experiences from various backgrounds into it, that it could succeed.
Very few people do that because very few people explore their superpowers. They just explore bread and butter issues. I need to eat, and
Yes, there will be challenges. This is a very difficult business environment. The government keeps working on how to make business easier.
The first problem to overcome is really just starting, right? We thought about this idea for over 2 years before we even took the first step.
You cannot ignore this country. No, and to be from here, I think is an incredible privilege. Nigeria will be ascendant in my lifetime.
This is Business Week, a weekly program brought to you by Business Day Television.
For many years, we've talked about the need to, essentially diversify our revenue stream away from, the huge dependence on oil revenues. It looks like that is happening now. So that means that we're better protected when, you have these wide fluctuations in oil prices and all of that. So it's
as you say, and I agree, that we should commend the government. At least revenues are not falling. There have been times in the past when we recorded drops in revenue. That's not the case today. We're seeing revenues actually going up.
Increasingly, we can see the developed countries focusing on renewable energy and so on and so forth, which means that in the long run, we must look for alternative sources to funding.
So, the government says that crude oil theft has essentially come to an end.
We need to do more to ensure that we totally eliminate crude oil theft and start to think of how to boost production. But it's a good first step. I mean, by eliminating crude oil theft, it also creates an incentive for international oil companies to probably return and, start to take up more projects in the upstream industries.
Stay ahead with Business Day Mobile, your gateway to Nigeria's most trusted business news, market insights, and expert analysis. With a Business Day Mobile app, you enjoy more than just news. You gain a seamless, intuitive platform designed to keep you informed and empowered. From exclusive articles to in-depth market trends, the app delivers the stories that matter most. Why Business Day Mobile? For premium access, for a clean, responsive design, for a smarter navigation, for customizable alerts, and for all-in-one business hub. Whether you're a business leader, investor, policymaker, or enthusiast, Business Day Mobile brings you closer to the insights shaping Nigeria's business landscape. Download today and put authoritative business journalism right at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere.
Entrepreneurship is for everybody, but not everybody is for entrepreneurship.
They are the dreamers.
I remember it was like 3 a.m. by 21st of December 2021.
The disruptors.
Life is not affordable, let's be real.
The doers.
BusinessDay Academy has trained over 3,000 event professionals.
In a place where the odds don't play fair, they play harder.
I would like my business to be remembered as one of the homegrown organizations that has helped with shaping the narrative of this continent positively.
From first-time founders to industry giants, this is where serious business meets unexpected turns.
I could stay up hours of the night just watching things about space.
Welcome to Entrepreneurs Lounge with Norma, where we unravel the buzz and glamorous headshots to bring you the untold.
When I went for youth service, where I was sent to, instead of me to go to work, I went to go and learn how to sew.
Raw. I'm blown away by the challenges they're facing.
And real stories of Nigeria's fearless young entrepreneurs.
And not only yes.
Watch Entrepreneurs Lounge with Norma every Tuesday on Business Day Television.
As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information, call Uchenna on 0809 645 3535 or Shegun on 0812 024 3167 or Daniel on 0802 756 4653. This is not just a conference. It's where conversations become decisions that shape the future of business. As Nigeria stands at a critical turning point, we move beyond the conversation of mere survival. This year, Business Day presents the 2026 edition of the CEO Forum, themed From Stability to Shared Prosperity. Join the nation's most influential CEOs, policymakers, and business leaders with keynote insights from Taiwo Oyedele, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and the Central Bank Governor, Olayemi Kadoso, alongside a powerful lineup of voices shaping Nigeria's economic future. Happening on the 16th of July 2026 here in Lagos. For more information, call Uchenna on 0809 645 3535 or Shegun on 0812 024 3167 or Daniel on 0802 756 4653. This is not just a conference. It's where conversations become decisions that shape the future of business.
Pleasure of welcoming great supporters and friends from INMA. He's the president, and then of course L. Wilkinson, and then Doreen is heading the work in Africa.
Honored that you're hosting us today. We look forward to a positive exchange of ideas and strategies to make our industry better. With me is Al Wilkinson. He's President and Executive Director of International Media Association. All right, guys. And we're happy to have him here. I'll let him tell you guys more about him and why he's here.
I would leave you with the idea about Business Days. No platform can take it. No AI can replicate it. No competitor can buy it. So here's a little advice. Defend it. Build it. Invest in it. Because folks, the decade ahead is going to belong to news organizations that are unmistakably themselves. They're not boring. They're not neutral. Who are you? Answer that question and you'll figure out the next one. Thanks a lot.